Good morning. This is the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. The new way Wyoming wakes up. Yeah, good morning. It's Tuesday, November 19th. Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake, and here's how it's going to go today. Abortion remains legal in Wyoming after a judge blocks bans, calls the procedure a recognized part of health care. Who is this for? The majority of UW students asked regarding firearms being allowed on campus. Don't be so squishy, was the response. A Wyoming delegation has urged lawmakers to ban men from playing in women's sports. A Saratoga man leads cops on a high-speed chase. Thermopolis woman pleads guilty to cooking the books for the FFA, even though she admitted such to investigators. That should read, plead not guilty. Coyotes and badgers living peacefully together? Casper man wins Maverick sweepstakes, and a Fremont County man is found guilty of gunning down his wheelchair-bound landlord. These stories and more on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake, Tuesday edition. Time for Wednesday.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Tuesday, November 19th. I'm Wendy Core, bringing you headlines from the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, brought to you by the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. From 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, Cowboy State Daily's Jake Nichols takes you deeper into the stories that matter and keeps up with the news, weather, and sports in your part of Wyoming. Just tune into CowboyStateDaily.com and join the conversation. Wyoming's 2 abortion bans are unconstitutional and will be blocked from being enforced. That's what a Jackson-based judge ruled on Monday. Teton County District Court Judge Melissa Owens concluded a year-and-a-half lawsuit Monday with that summary judgment order, according to Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland.
Judge Melissa Owens ruled Monday that abortion is healthcare, that the state's laws and stated purposes of these bans don't overcome an individual's right to that healthcare. Lastly, she said that she's blocking the bans from going into effect altogether. So they've been temporarily blocked during this litigation for a year and a half. Like, we're going to pause these, decide if they're constitutional. This is just an outright block. These are not constitutional. You cannot enforce them.
Wyoming lawmakers and pro-lifers have a few different options going forward. The state can appeal Owens' ruling to the Wyoming Supreme Court. The legislature can try to pass a different ban that shows a compelling government interest, or the Wyoming legislature and the voters can pass a new constitutional amendment. Opinions were split over whether to allow concealed firearms on the University of Wyoming campus during a town hall meeting on campus Monday. Outdoors reporter Mark Hines attended the town hall, where panelists discussed a draft proposal to loosen UW's firearms policy. He reported that most who spoke out seemed to be against the idea.
There's a proposal that is going before the UW trustees later this week. The Cliff Notes are it would be only for people holding concealed carry permits, and they would have to be age 21 and up. So no open carry, no long guns, nothing like that. Most of the people who attended this meeting do not want to see concealed carry guns on UW campus. They cited concern about accidental shootings, suicides, just the overall danger of the thing.
If approved by the UW Board of Trustees, the proposal would allow concealed carry permit holders to carry firearms in most UW facilities. It's set to be considered by trustees during their next meeting, scheduled for later this week. Tempers are not cooling in Laramie County between some local Republicans and their county clerk. The Wyoming Republican Party censured Laramie County Clerk Deborah Lee on Saturday for the second time this year over the way she conducted voting machine testing in this year's elections. That's according to politics reporter Leo Wolfson.
This stems from frustration that the state party has over election machine tests that Lee conducted for the primary and general elections. These tests, the party alleges, did not align with state law law and were missing critical pieces of information in the tests that were performed. Tim Stubson, a Casper attorney who's representing Lee in her official capacity in this lawsuit, said the party is looking for controversy where none exists and that she did nothing to break the law.
The resolution passed by the GOP on Saturday asks for Lee's resignation by December 1st. If she does not resign, the party plans to petition Governor Mark Gordon to remove her. The Wyoming Department of Transportation and contractor Ames Construction have been working around the clock to rebuild the mountain beneath Teton Pass. Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi reports that crews will continue working 24-hour shifts until winter decides they're done for the season.
They've analyzed what happened with the failure back in June and then applied that knowledge to the permanent solution for Teton Pass. So the new Teton Pass is going to be the same road, same curvature, same footprint, but they've drilled steel pillars into the bedrock and they're supporting that with a thick layer of concrete. They've put in new fill that's more structurally sound and reinforced. And they've also installed a drainage system because the reason why the highway failed back in June was it was saturated with water very quickly, and that reduced all of its strength or eliminated all of its strength.
The permanent solution for Wyoming Highway 22 will be finished by the end of July 2025, just over a year after the catastrophic collapse of the highway. And now let's take a look at today's weather with Cowboy State Daily meteorologist Don Day.
Well, bundle up, everybody. It is going to be a cold, windy Tuesday across the Cowboy State and really the whole region. A storm forming in North Dakota will bring gusty northwest winds into the state and some cold Canadian air. Now, this is going to result in a little bit of snow for northern and northeastern Wyoming, especially early in the day. Snow showers over Wyoming's mountains. The snow is not going to be heavy, but enough, especially in the north, to make roads and highways and mountain passes a bit slick. Most of those snow showers will happen early in the day. The rest of the state, just bundle up. We're going to be 20s and 30s and windy, cold wind chills. It'll be a cold night tonight. Now, tomorrow the weather gets a little bit better, still a little chilly, still a little bit breezy, but the best 2 days of the week will be Thursday and Friday. Less windy, sunny, dry, and a little bit warmer before the next frontal system approaches the state by late Friday and into the weekend.
You can get Don's full forecast on the Cowboy State Daily website. I'll be back in just 15 seconds with more news.
Open enrollment is here. Discover a range of low-cost plans from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming. Shop now to find the best option for you. Online, in town, in touch. We're right around the corner. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming. What's your plan?
Wyoming's congressional delegation and 10 more members of Congress sent a letter Monday to the commissioner of the Mountain West Conference urging her to keep males out of women's sports. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the letter follows a 2-month controversy in which 5 Mountain West Conference women's volleyball teams have forfeited games against San Jose State University, which has a transgender player on its roster.
Wyoming's all-Republican delegation to Congress joined with 10 other lawmakers in signing a letter to the Mountain West Commissioner saying you need to get males out of women's school sports. They basically said this is not fair, this is not safe.
The National Association of Intercollegiate Athletes voted unanimously in April to allow only females to compete in women's sports. In a letter earlier this year, nearly 24 U.S. senators urged the NCAA's president and that organization to adopt that guidance. Well, in all states, milk must still be pasteurized to sell commercially in a store. In Wyoming, you can only buy raw milk directly from producers or through their agents. Raw milk is still illegal in many states, although Cowboy State Daily's Jackie Dorothy reports that this may change under the incoming presidential administration.
So personally, if I were to drink raw milk, I would want to know where it's from and know that I trust the dairy farmer that's giving it to me. And that's my responsibility as a consumer. And that's how the laws stand right now, is that it's consumer right from the farmer themselves. And so the question gets to be is if this goes on the federal level, where will be that safety factor and how much do you have to regulate?
With President-elect Donald Trump's nomination of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as head of the Department of Health and Human Services, raw milk may soon become legal to sell nationwide. One of Kennedy's agenda items is to make America healthy again, is to allow for the sale of the controversial agricultural product. Well, James Temple came into work in the Sheridan County Elections Office last Tuesday, expecting a relatively normal day. It had been exactly 1 week since the completion of this year's elections, an event Temple saw as very successful in his county. But Sheridan County Clerk Ida Shunk Thompson fired him first thing that day without giving any explanation why. Temple told politics reporter Leah Wolfson that he's concerned that the firing was retribution for his support of Secretary of State Chuck Gray's position on the issue of ballot drop boxes.
Ballot drop boxes have been a controversial topic around America and in Wyoming in the last few years. Sheridan County actually got rid of its ballot drop box before this year's election, but Temple said he and the county clerk disagreed about him expressing support for Gray's directive, saying that county clerks should not use them in the election.
Temple lived in a number of different states before moving to Wyoming in 2019. He said he believes Wyoming has the most secure elections in the nation. And when two of Wyoming's most cantankerous species, coyotes and badgers, set aside their differences and team up to go after prairie dogs and ground squirrels, the rodents have nowhere to hide. Outdoors reporter Mark Hines spoke to wildlife photographers and biologists who all say the unlikely pairing isn't uncommon.
The badger will go in the hole and start digging, and the coyote will kind of bounce around the exits, and whoever gets the rodent first gets lunch, and whoever misses it, I guess, has to try again. But this biologist said, regardless of which one gets it first, the other one doesn't get upset and try to fight him for it. So who knew?
Between a badger's relentless digging prowess and a coyote's speed and agility, it's a near certainty that the burrowing varmints are going to end up being somebody's lunch. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. And you can watch this newscast every day by clicking subscribe on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to drop in on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake Nichols, Monday through Friday from 6 to 10 a.m. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Wendy Corr for Cowboy State Daily. Cowboy State Daily is all about Wyoming. Daily features include our popular sunrise photo of the day, our daily Darwin, Same Guys Dancing, and more. You'll enjoy our regular Wyoming life features, daily video newscasts and podcasts, and frequent opinion pieces from a carefully curated collection of the state's finest columnists. All of this in addition to the core mission, providing statewide news coverage in a clear, plain manner with up-to-the-minute breaking news when and where it happens. Cowboy State Daily's collective of reporters, photographers, videographers, and editors are dedicated to quality, unbiased daily journalism here in Wyoming. Find out why Cowboy State Daily is considered Wyoming's largest and most experienced newsroom. All it takes is one visit, cowboystatedaily.com.
Let's get to the morning sunrise on this Tuesday. Beautiful shot from... Where is it from? Douglas. Oh, yeah. Stacy Hessler writes, sunrise photo of Laramie Peak on Easterbrook Road out of Douglas, Wyoming. Yeah, that's pretty nice. I like that. Easterbrook Road. I'm going to have to ask, I need a longer, I need like, a morning, I'm trying to settle on like a morning sound. This sounds morning-ish. That's longer. All right, that's all right. Yeah, that'll work. Nice photos, Stacy. Thank you for sending that in. Don Day's weather forecast looks like this. Chilly morning over Pinedale. Jerry McMillan with that photo. It is a chilly morning. You betcha. You bet your bottom thermals it's chilly today. Don Day says, watch for this. Central Wyoming, Casper, Riverton, Jeffrey City, mostly sunny, breezy with highs, so right around 33 in Casper, maybe 38 in Riverton. Southwest Wyoming, Evanston, Green River, South Pass, mostly sunny. Might see a little bit of snow in Evanston before 11, otherwise partly sunny. Highs in Evanston, 25. You'll top out around 28 in Green River. It could be windy. Breezy in South Pass as well. Western Wyoming, partly sunny in Pinedale. The high's 23. Alpine, you're looking for chance of snow in the morning. By noon, though, just cloudy. Highs today in the low to mid 20s in Western Wyoming. DuBois, Jackson, chance of snow in the morning early. Otherwise, partly sunny to partly cloudy, a little bit breezy in DuBois. Some wind gusts as well. High today in DuBois, 22. That's all. 28 in Jackson. Bighorn Basin. Thermopolis. Cody, Powell, mostly sunny today with highs in the mid to upper 30s. Buffalo, Sheridan. You'll be sunny today, a little bit windy, though, with highs in the mid to upper 30s. Gillette, sunny, breezy, highs around 33. Sunny and blustery in Sundance. And Hewlett as well, with highs in the low to mid 30s. Eastern Plains and Torrington, Lusk, Casey, sunny, but breezy, with highs in the low 30s in Lusk. Torrington, you might be low 40s. Casey, 34 will be your high today. Southeast Wyoming, Cheyenne, sunny, windy with highs around 36. Laramie, mostly sunny and windy with highs 28. South Central Wyoming, Rawlins, sunny, windy, high 28 today. Encampment, Hannah, you'll be mostly sunny and breezy with highs in the low to mid 20s. Here's what the weather map looks like this morning, and yeah, it's a cold start to the day for sure. Let me refresh, get the temps in there for you. What do we got? Bondurant on the wrong side of zero. That figures. That figures right in to Bondurant's usual 18 degrees in Jackson. Buffalo. Wow, you can't be that cold, are you, Buffalo? I don't have a temp for right exactly in Buffalo, but it's probably not a whole lot better than maybe 12. Worland, you're looking at 19. Casper, 26 degrees down there in Laramie. It's around 14, 15, 20 in Cheyenne, 18 degrees in Rock Springs. Travel conditions, yeah, you got things to note today. That snow yesterday had a lot of areas around the state, all kinds of snarled up. I know I-80 was kind of messy for a while there. Things looking a lot better on 80, though. Down around Evanston, you got some trouble. Looking at black ice. Togety Pass, any roads in and out of Jackson are sketchy. Jackson had a pretty good amount of snow yesterday. I was surprised, more than I thought we'd get. Teton Pass is open, but the chain law in effect. Heading... that stretch out of Buffalo to Sheridan has reopened on I-90, but it's not fun. It's slippery. Yesterday it had closed briefly. Buffalo to Sheridan run on 90. If you're heading 90 north of Casper, that road also a bit slick. 25 around the Douglas, Glen Rock, Glendo area is also a bit sketchy. So, yeah, travel concerns, nothing horrible and nothing closed right now. But you got to take your winter driving, get your winter driving habits going here. A lot of folks not quite ready for prime time. We had a semi truck fell off the Snake River Canyon and almost fell down all the way into the Snake River. That happened yesterday. Last night travel, going home from, if you were a worker bee going home from Jackson to Star Valley, that was a 2.5 hour trip, something that should have took you 40 minutes because of that truck that fell off the canyon. So yeah, weather effect. Greg Johnson in the Zoom room. You got some weather down in your area, or is it not too bad?
Pretty windy.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty windy, kind of cold. I tell you what, that's what does it. That's what makes it cold is the wind.
Oh yeah.
It's much the temperature. It's the wind that gets you.
Yeah, it gets right in every crack in the house or the building you're in, and it gets in you when you're, even though you think you're bundled. Yeah, that wind. Well, we got wind almost everywhere around the state. We'll talk to Don Day at 7:20 and throw some shade his way Ask him why he got to do us like that. Meanwhile, big news, Greg. Claire McFarland was on it. She's kind of been waiting for this decision for a while now, and it finally came down.
Yeah, it wasn't an accident that Claire broke that story. She's been checking on it every day for months.
Oh, yeah.
Just in case it came in, and it did right at the end of the day yesterday. The ruling on Wyoming's 2 abortion bans. Judge Melissa Owens in Jackson ruled that they are unconstitutional and has blocked them. So abortion remains legal in Wyoming for now. I'm sure it's not the end of the legal fight on that one.
Right. Decision with huge implications. And Claire knew, for one thing, she had a feeling that decision was coming down sometime soon, and she knew it would come like right before 5 o'clock. That's when they tend to release these big decisions. Doesn't give media a chance to ask too many questions that day. She was right about that. I like Judge Melissa Owens, by the way. I know her. She's a smart woman. So I can only assume it's a good decision from her. I don't know whether, where people stand on it, whether they're bummed out or happy about it. But
legally, we'll find out if it's a good decision or not.
Yeah,
because I'm sure I'm sure it'll eventually be up to the state Supreme Court to decide that.
Do you think it'll go all the way, huh?
Oh, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
it was already appealed there, and the state Supreme Court sent it back.
Oh,
saying no, it hasn't come to us yet, basically. So I'm sure. I would be surprised if it doesn't, but you never know. I'm not making the decisions in that case. I'm just observing from where I'm at.
yeah, we're both armchair quarterbacking it. Claire knows way more. We'll have Claire on the show, and she can fill us out more on this. But Teton County District Court Judge Melissa Owens just announced yesterday, Claire McFarland broke the story for the Cowboy State Daily that abortion is still legal in Wyoming through there was a, injunction, or there was a stop, or, temporarily Owens had blocked abortion bans, 2 of them proposed, but now they remain. Abortion remains legal in Wyoming at this point, and the gist of it is, as Judge Melissa Owens said, abortion is health care, and the Wyoming Constitution protects a woman's right to the procedure, just as anyone would not be denied any health care. There's laws about, so it may come down to whether more powdered wigs up there at the Supreme Court level, state Supreme Court level, agree whether abortion is technically health care. But great story by Claire McFarland. She's on it. What else happened?
A lot.
Yeah.
I mean, a ton of stuff. A couple hundred people turned out at the University of Wyoming for a panel discussion about whether concealed carry should be allowed on campus. I guess most of the people there thought it shouldn't. There's a few who thought it should. One who told people to get over their squishy feelings.
Yeah,
and do it. So that debate continues. Claire had another good one. This dude in Saratoga. Laundry list of tickets, 7 feet long worth of tickets, and he ran from the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
During the pursuit, his bumper falls off. So among the many charges against him, they also tag him for littering because his bumper fell
I
off.
love that. Yeah, hit him with whatever you can. Yeah, it reminds me of Smokey and the Bandit 2 or 3 or one of those when Jackie Gleason's riding with his son Junior, the dimwit, And Gleason, or it's hard to say which one's the dimmer wit, but Gleason is following Smokey, and his part of his car falls off, and he said, "Junior, get the evidence, put it in the car." I just see these guys chasing the pickup truck, and the tailgate's falling. The guy turns to his deputy, "Write that down." His tailgate just fell off. That's littering. Yeah, that poor guy. Well, that's what happens. You run. Where's my bad boys? You can't run. You can't run from the law. They'll get you. And there was speculation whether he had 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel. He was like heading up this muddy, snowy, and he couldn't make it. And they got him. But there was a long, long list. It'll take me a good chunk of the morning show to go through every charge against this dude at this point.
Yeah. The photo is great. The sheriff's deputies took a photo of this. One of them like standing on the back of the truck holding this this long list of citations, and it literally is just like all the way down to the ground. It's almost like Santa's list or something, It's great.
I mean, you need all those, because in the plea bargaining that inevitably happens, you need to have a whole bunch of stuff that you're going to just take off. All right, we'll take these 3 off and we'll go for those 2. It becomes just plea bargaining junk, and Judge Jake doesn't like that, but he's retired. What else is happening? The gun, I'm going to talk to Mark today in the show, but the firearms on campus, I just can't figure that one out. I'm 50-50. I'm a firearm guy. I'm a firearm owner. I contribute to the NRA every year. I'm a card-carrying NRA. Like, I'm your red-blooded redneck in that regard, and I don't like any infringement on the Second Amendment. I want to have a right to bear arms. But I also understand the editor-in-chief of the school paper, the Branding Iron, Van Meester, who said, who is this for? Who is leading the do we all, this isn't student-driven. Most of the students aren't going to be allowed to carry anyway, because the age limit's going to be 21 and up. So only your RA is going to have a gun if it all goes down in the dorm. It's just weird. Who is it for? Also, UW alumnus Tom Ziedzik with a great quote to end the story that Mark Hines wrote. Are we creating this just for the sake of creating it? And I do wonder, what is the motivation? What's moving the needle here at UW with the firearm thing?
Well, they kind of had to. Governor Gordon pretty much told them to look into this. He's like, I'm going to veto these gun-free zone bills, but I want these institutions to check this out. So so it was kind of the governor saying, hey, you guys need to consider this, and so that's what they're doing.
Good point, Greg. That does come from the governor himself, Gordon, who vetoed the bills that would have made it a state deal, the state telling you whether you can carry guns here and there or not. And Gordon said this should be decided at a level closer to what are the concerns. So let's let UW decide. Let's let this organization, you all make your own firearm rules, is what the governor said. So you're right. That's what's got the ball rolling in UW, whether they should be allowed to conceal carry. We've got one county clerk that we can't get rid of, and we got another that's fired the dude that works for her. So, the county clerks are in the news. Pretty weird. Leo's got both those stories.
Yeah, and he's looking into something. Apparently, it kind of came up at the Republican meeting over the weekend. The thing about Zoom is I can mute myself so you guys don't have to hear me cough.
Yeah.
But kind of came up looking into it. Apparently some people are a little miffed because the party had, they had poll watchers all over the state at different counties to watch them do the counts.
Yeah.
It's the law. It's legal. You can do that. You can have your poll watchers there. apparently some of the county clerks wouldn't give them any chairs
Ah!
to sit down and watch them in. So they're a little miffed at that. So
Yeah, they didn't give him any chairs, and they said,
you got to be here, but we don't have to give you a chair. So.
You're not allowed to wear a coat or a hat or gloves, no chair. You make life miserable. That's weird. County clerks have some power, and it's an elected office. Once you're in, it's difficult to get someone removed. County clerks got some power around the state, and they are in the news every election cycle for sure. And
you talk about your gun-free zones. I mean, what happened? I mean, what if you have some poll watchers show up and they're all packing? I mean, is that intimidation or not? I don't know.
You're not even allowed to wear a T-shirt that says "Make America Great Again" within 50 yards. I'm sure you can't carry. I'm sure that's one of a gun-free zone. But yeah.
There's some interesting stuff. Did you see that photo of that rope cloud?
Yeah, I did. That's crazy.
That's an amazing photo. That's really cool. It's super cool.
Let me pop that on while we're talking about it. Don Day is quoted in the story because Don Day, of course, the meteorologist supreme of Wyoming, and he says when pilots see that, they take an extra grip on the steering wheel. He said that means turbulence, and I'm not surprised. Look at those things.
Yeah, it's great. It's a really cool. It's a really cool thing.
I'm looking for that photo now. It is a weird, and that was the sunrise photo of the weekend, which means I didn't use it on the show. So I'm bummed that I didn't get a chance that happened on Sunday. What the heck is that? I think I filed it under things to ask Don Day, which is at the bottom of my list. I want to ask Don Day when that stop sign is going to be buried in snow, and what's the deal with that rope cloud?
Don Day should be exempt from that contest, right?
I agree. He's an insider. Family of Cowboy State Daily probably should be out. And
well, it's not our contest. You can enter.
Well, that's true. I'm making my own because it's too late. We missed the deadline to enter the real one. So we're going to do our own CSD contest. There's the rope cloud. Powell, Wyoming resident Dave Varconi caught that over Hart Mountain. I mean, it almost looks superimposed. It almost looks Photoshop deal. But yeah, Don Day said that happens. He explains why in the story. And, just like listening to Renee talk about oil and gas extraction, my eyes glazed over. But I'll have Don explain it in real words explain like I'm 5. To me later at 7:20 what that cloud is, why it's made, and why when pilots see it, they say, hang on. That's when the thing goes on. Ding, ding. Put your seatbelt, get out of the bathroom. Stewardess, get ready. Boom. Any other stories that are floating your boat?
I love Mark's little story about how coyotes and badgers team up to hunt prairie dogs and squirrels and stuff that they hunt together.
Mark Hines stole that story from me.
Oh, did he?
Yes. Cowboy Kevin and I talked about that on our Cowboy Kevin Horse Sense segment the other day. We were talking about some of the weirdest things we've seen out there on the range, out there cowboying, and
the video was cool. They're just out there together chilling, and
I've seen it.
The badgers go into the holes and scare them out, and the coyotes can catch them.
Yep.
Although from what Mark says is that they may hunt together, but they don't share the kill. Whoever gets it gets it.
Yeah. Who's seen one give to the other? I think Franz Commonsen, who's seen this phenomenon quite a few times, is interviewed in the story. Franz would know. Commonsen would know. I've seen it once, and I remember I was leading a bunch of dudes on a horse ride, and back then I was a young whippersnapper, and I did not know of this phenomenon where coyote and badger will cooperate on a hunt to get rodents. The badger's great at digging. The coyote's quick enough to get the rodent when it leaves the hole, so the chiseler makes a run for it. The badger can't chase him quick enough, and also these smart little chiselers will choose an exit hole, and the coyote's smart and quick. The coyote will wait at the exit hole while the badger digs into the entry hole. Yep. And that little partnership works out. It's really interesting. It's been observed in nature. The first time I saw it, a coyote and a badger were both they were resting from having hunted. They were both looked like they were full as could be. They had smiles on their face, and they were very close together, just kind of resting next to a hole. And we come up upon them, and neither one moved. They weren't scared of us. And the people on my ride said, "What? Why is the coyote and the badger laying down together? The sheep and the lion shall lay down together in peace." And I thought, I made up some story at the moment why that would happen, but then I went and learned the real deal. Interesting.
Yeah. And I'm sure the coyote, unless he has to, probably doesn't want to mess around with the badger.
Yeah.
Vice versa.
Coyotes are a fairly cowardly hunter. They're a predator, but they pick and choose easy stuff. They're not going to go out of their way to pick a fight. They're not that valiant. And a badger would be way more than they want to take on, for sure.
That's true. I mean, sports teams, they're fine with being badgers, but you don't see too many taking coyotes as their mascots, right?
Except for Phoenix, yeah. And look where it got them in hockey. Yeah.
That's right. It got them out.
Really?
Out of town. Nobody likes coyotes. That's they don't like coyotes hanging around.
I guess not.
They got the coyote hockey team.
I guess not. So I don't know. Oh, I just don't like how when this goes down. I'm glad we have a judicial system that works, and this isn't like this Dark Ages, or this isn't Russia where you can be pulled out of your apartment and put in jail and maybe disappear and nobody knows. I'm glad we have a justice system where you're given a fair shake, a jury of your peers, et cetera, but sometimes I don't understand the technicalities. There seems to be way too many technicalities in the justice system. That's the Jake opinion, but this story makes me think about that. It's Cody Stewart, a woman who is almost turning 36. It'll be soon here. She pleaded not guilty to Monday to charges she stole about 15 to 18 grand off the local Future Farmers of America alumni. In interviews with the police chief, she admitted to skimming bank accounts by writing checks to herself or whatever. I think she was doing the books for the FFA, and she admitted it in interviews where she was apparently read her Miranda rights. Yeah, when it comes to court time, she's pleading not guilty. It's just so weird. I mean, if you say you did it under no duress with your rights read, then this should be a fast trial, in my opinion. But
that's the process. I mean, you're presumed innocent until proven guilty, and that hasn't been proven yet. And who knows? Maybe the argument is that what she said to the police chief was coerced. You don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it was. I'm just saying that's an argument.
Yeah,
that they might be able to make. It's interesting. Years ago in Gillette, I did a story. It actually won several awards for sports writing, even though it wasn't it was about how there's like a rash of people stealing from these youth sports groups and local bowling leagues and stuff. There's a whole bunch of them. And the lead of that story was I talked to a woman in Gillette who was convicted. She pleaded guilty and was convicted from stealing from the local Babe Ruth League. And she was very forthcoming about it. She said that she was, having some hard financial times. She borrowed from the account and meant to pay it back, but got caught before she could. That's a story people tell a lot. But she talked about how she's still got to live there after paying her price, and her kids are still in the league and everything, and it's just a thing, where especially these groups that they're set up for kids. I mean, it's like you're stealing from kids,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've seen it a lot in a lot of different communities where I've covered news. I've seen people steal from Boys and Girls Clubs. I've seen people steal from Little League. I've seen people steal from bowling leagues. There's this with the FFA alumni who, while the alumni are adults, they are doing it for the kids in the group. So, it happens over and over again.
Yeah. An accountant or a bookkeeper who has access to that kind of stuff, it's so easy to do, what's called skimming, or it's so easy to kind of move some money over your way. And it feels like a victimless crime. I could see the temptation for sure. But this story from Claire, Thermopolis woman who's pled not guilty, I thought of another interesting aspect to the story, innocent till proven guilty, is this woman said, well, my boyfriend and I have this tickets we've already purchased and money we've already spent to go to this roping event in Las Vegas in December. Apparently her boyfriend's a roper, a rodeo, and they'd like to attend this rodeo roping event. And the prosecuting attorney said, what kind of message does that send when this woman's up on charges and the first thing we say is, oh yeah, have a vacation in December? And the judge said, well, he didn't see it that way. He said, mind your P's and Q's while you're in December, no associating with bad people, no gambling, no drinking, but yeah, you can go. Interesting story from Claire on the judicial system and how it works, and it's still baffling to me.
I don't know if you remember it's probably about 10 years ago or so. Something like that happened to the Little League in Casper. It almost shut it down. The embezzlement from there is like 46,000 or something, a lot. And they came this close to having to shut down their whole Little League program there.
Yeah. I've seen a few cases of, bookkeepers and accountants getting funny with the money. It does happen. That flag that they unfurled down there at the border war was pretty darn big, but it's not the biggest. Man, the biggest weighs 3,000 pounds. It's in the Guinness World Book of Records. But this flag, Dale Killingback with the story, took 200 volunteers to hold it out over the field to cover the entire football field.
Yeah, they call it a super flag.
Super flag.
It's pretty cool. It's a cool little it's a little slice of interesting. That's great. Yeah, like the biggest one, they don't have it. It wasn't readily available for this particular flag, but that biggest one they're talking about, the stars themselves are like 17 feet high on each of them. That's a huge flag. I don't know.
Yeah.
This one fills up the whole field, so I don't know where you find a venue big enough for the biggest one.
Yeah. And I don't know where you put that thing when you're done with it. Furl it up, roll it up, and where do you store that thing? You need a heck of a bully barn. That is
you got to have its own garage or something.
Yeah. That is a flag
garage out back.
That's pretty cool. We got to get Zoom. Oh yeah, we have to get Jen Coker in here. So hold on. Can you guys talk amongst yourselves, because I got to go kick this cat out for just a second. And here's our three-way Zoom where I'm not in the middle, which is fine with me, because I'm going to go kick this.
Are you still white face in the middle?
I'm still the white face in the middle. That's me. Looking real good. I'm looking a lot better than I actually look, but I'm going to look pretty soon, says the cosmologist.
Here's your first Jake Kicks Cats.
Yeah, hold on. Jake's kicking the cat out. I have to come up with a graphic for that. Jake is gone from the screen. He's throwing the cat outside. Stand by. I'll be right back. You guys talk about, Jen has a whole mess of stories, so let me tee you up. The first one I want to talk about is, I don't know, which one do you want to talk about, Jen?
Hey, I got something for you, Jen.
All right.
Talking to Leo yesterday, our political writer, Leo Wolfson. And it struck him and it struck others that know Leo that Coltrane Carlos, the mock-up, looks eerily similar to Leo Wolfson.
Whoa, I didn't put that together.
But now that you hear that, it kind of does, doesn't it?
Yeah, we should check his family tree. Is he from San Diego? I spoke to the genealogist.
No, he's from up in the northeast, somewhere like Minnesota or someplace.
Shoot,
someplace cold.
Okay.
But he may be adopted. We don't know that for sure.
I'm back. While I was outside, I ran into the neighbor who plays their music loud sometimes. And it's going to come to a head here soon, Jen. And I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to control my temper. And if it really goes down, I perhaps would want to stage it as a grizzly bear murder.
Mm-hmm.
Is that doable or probably not ill-advised?
It's not ill-advised, but you might get away with it just because of your location.
Yeah, right. I mean, there are grizzly, but for the most part, law enforcement says we can tell whether someone's been stabbed with a screwdriver or killed by a grizzly.
Yeah, despite all the blood and some of those, it's
Bye, Greg.
the tools, the claws, and the teeth are really hard. And I had one former sheriff deputy get really creative. I mean, I asked him about it. And he put some time into it, and he's also a rancher, so he was sending me pictures. He's like, maybe this will work, and it was a hook, and I was like, and he's like, that might work for claws. He was getting really into it. But then he was stumped by the teeth, and he didn't get back to me, so I think he was permanently stumped.
Yeah. I mean, and then, you know, in your story, we're talking about Jen Coker's story, trying to get away with murder, which makes me think of that police song, Murder by Numbers, and the one, we got to add a number now, grizzly bear attack. Staging your murder, your homicide as a grizzly bear attack, probably a bad idea. Jen says the phenomena blaming one of nature's apex predators for homicidal intent is suddenly all in vogue. I mean, it's popular lately, weirdly, but it's hard to do. I mean, can you imagine Game and Fish, or your game wardens or people who investigate cattle predation by supposed grizzlies so ranchers can be compensated? They've seen scenes of grizzly murder. They know what it looks like. They gather DNA, you know, there's saliva, there's hair. You know, they're not going to be duped.
No. And that's the thing. I mean, the DNA alone, plus, like you say, the behaviors, and it's just too hard to mimic a grizzly. In general.
Yeah, it sound like it, smell like it, and have the impact of a grizzly when it, swats you. Yeah, it would be very difficult. So, yeah, we don't advise that. Thank you, Jen, for perhaps dissuading some people out there that had it in the back of their mind.
Yeah, I like to do my civic duty whenever possible.
And I love this story. You gave us a heads up that this was coming down, and this seems like a no-brainer. It's one of those things where I think we have too many laws on the books. Like, it's ridiculous how many laws have to cover everything. But here's one that slipped through the cracks, or a piece of one. It's the allowing permanent lifetime protection orders in Wyoming. Currently, the victim, in essence, has to relive some memories that he or she may not want to relive every 3 years to extend protection orders, where you and I both talked about this. We think it should be kind of more of an opt-in rather than opt-out, or maybe the other way around, but it should be he can't be around you or she can't be around you for good. You know, it's over. And if somehow there was some reconciliation, maybe you could change that. But right now, having to go back and extend a protection order every 3 years seems burdensome to the victim.
that was the general consensus I heard from on the victim side. Definitely. And I didn't think about that, but it is, and it could be the judge could also give you 1 year. So that's, even more traumatic if you have to. And granted, it's based on the level of the harassment, whether it's stalking or, whatever that is. But yeah, they have to go right back in court and relive, it's the same procedure again. So this is one argument, and so far it doesn't seem to have met with a lot of resistance in committee.
Yeah, and I wonder who would resist, because without a public defender assigned to one particular case defending, we'll say, the ex-husband, who would be the general group that would get together and say, well, this doesn't sound like a good idea. I don't know who out there would be opposed to this. Is this going to be a law? Is this coming up at the legislative session?
Yeah, right now it's still in committee, but it seems to be heading in that direction. And one area that as I dig into this, I'll go deeper, but there's also gun rights that are connected potentially to the protection orders. I don't understand it yet, admittedly. But I've heard kind of mixed reviews on both sides, so I have to dig into it and see how it might impact a person's gun rights. And of course, that's going to be the biggest pushback.
Yeah, perhaps if you've been served, if you're under a protection order not to go near him or her, you're also not allowed to own a firearm or be in possession of a firearm. That could be a problem if you just want to go hunting and you're never going to go harass him or her again.
Well, those are tied to their felonies also. So it's likely that that person who doesn't have gun rights doesn't have them because of a violent felony.
Any chance we're going to get an actual name and an ID to Coltrane Carlos? Are we getting anywhere? We have the 3D modeling. We somebody must know what he looks like recognize him, but it's an old case.
Here's the trouble with that one. All of the evidence so far, what I can gather, nobody knows where it is. I'm still working on that. So if there's quite a bit of evidence that would help. There's a belt, there's keys, there is a lighter. I mean, there is some stuff in his clothing. So there's potential for some kind of identification. Right now, his cremains are buried in Gillette. So even exhuming those, which a former coroner did try to do that, but even getting DNA out of that, from what I gather, is going to be really hard. However, this citizen sleuth in Virginia, I've heard from her every single day with updates. She's really working it hard. She put this story into different groups in Latin America for missing people to try to attempt to, because she's guessing that he may have been an illegal immigrant. She has found some family in San Diego. So or potential family, because that's where the police report was filed for his missing person, which is always interesting because he went missing in Washington. And the guy I'm talking about, is a potential match. His name's Michael Hissam, and they have the same tattoo on their hand, on their right hand. In the web of their right hand, they have a cross. Granted, a billion other people probably have that same tattoo, but in cases like this, these searchers are just looking for some clue to start and people to eliminate.
That's interesting. You bring up this woman who has kind of taken up the cause a little bit. Because we both talked about the limited resources with law enforcement, with investigators. They're trying to solve crimes now, and to do what it takes to go back 30 years to figure out a John Doe is taxing on our resources. There's not enough cops out there, so.
No.
I mean, what are the chances? This is great that an investigative reporter like you, combined with an armchair Ellery Queen, someone who has time and interest to dig, that's how we could solve some of these things, I bet.
I agree. She has her first, she's new to this. And her first case out of the gate, she solved or helped solve. I think there are two people who brought it to fruition, but she is just passionate. She's not stopping. She's thinking of every possible tie. And also one thing that she has is she's connected to, and there's so many resources out there. You might be surprised by how many people want to identify and find missing people. It's pretty remarkable. So she's connected with other organizations, and these people are all volunteers, just absolutely passionate. So who knows? I'm going to stay on this.
I think
and see what we can do.
yeah, I think it's something that speaks to all of us. You want to think that you yourself could disappear from the earth and just be your memory, everything is gone, and you left no imprint whatsoever. Yeah, it's weird to think about, and so I can see why people would pursue an answer in these kind of cases. What else you working on this weekend, Jen? Anything?
All right. Yep. This is my big unveiling. You guessed it last week, but I can officially say. A person has claimed to have solved D.B. Cooper. It's the first significant movement by the FBI in 20 years. And the FBI has actually picked up the parachute that he claims is D.B. Cooper based on all these various, very specific specifications and alterations to the parachute. It's a web. There's a lot of connections, but the DNA did take, the FBI did take DNA from D.B. Cooper's son, and the daughter actually, for the first time, is going to share her story, and she's actually living in Wyoming.
Whoa, this is major. D.B. Cooper, if you not familiar, there's a whole story, and I have to get myself up to speed, but I know if everything is true, what we speculate, he threw himself out of an airplane with money and maybe was still alive when he got on the ground. Or
he was alive. Well, if this proves to be true, the FBI have to seal this.
Yeah.
And so far, I get no notification from them that this is a done deal by any means. So I wanted to have that disclaimer out there. But the story here is it is the first time the FBI has picked up a piece of evidence in 20 years. So the indication is that they're serious enough about this to believe it could be this guy. And he was on one of their 4 suspects anyway, so it's not a shock. But, and I'm not telling because everybody has to read.
Yeah.
But he did survive, Jake. He did survive the jump, if this is the real D.B. Cooper.
Right.
And went on to do a second hijacking 6 months later.
Wow. Jen, stay on this resolution to one of the greatest mysteries of all time, D.B. Cooper. Zoom Room's going to time out on us, and we're at top of the hour news. But thank you, Jen. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jake.
Awesome.
See you Thursday.
Yes, ma'am. Jen Coker, Cowboy State Daily, giving us a sneak preview into D.B. Cooper's story. Get yourself updated on that whole thing. It's crazy piece of history that just has more question marks than answers. But maybe the answers are coming. Cowboy State Daily's Jen Coker sitting on it, staying on it, and we may know more. It's time now for Wendy Core, the top of the hour news.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Tuesday, November 19th. From the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, I'm Wendy Core. Wyoming's 2 abortion bans are unconstitutional and will be blocked from being enforced. That's what a Jackson-based judge ruled on Monday. Teton County District Court Judge Melissa Owens concluded a 1.5-year lawsuit Monday with that summary judgment order, according to Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland.
Judge Melissa Owens ruled Monday that abortion is healthcare, that the state's laws and stated purposes of these bans don't overcome an individual's right to that healthcare. Lastly, she said that she's blocking the bans from going into effect altogether.
The state can appeal Owens' ruling to the Wyoming Supreme Court. The legislature can try to pass a different ban that shows a compelling government interest, or the Wyoming legislature and the voters can pass a new constitutional amendment. Opinions were split over whether to allow concealed firearms on the University of Wyoming campus during a town hall meeting on campus Monday. Outdoors reporter Mark Hines attended the town hall where panelists discussed a draft proposal to loosen UW's firearms policy. He reported that most who spoke out seemed to be against the idea.
Most of the people who attended this meeting do not want to see concealed carry guns on UW campus. They cited concern about accidental shootings, suicides, just the overall danger of the thing.
If approved by the UW Board of Trustees, the proposal would allow concealed carry permit holders to carry firearms in most UW facilities. It's set to be considered by trustees during their next meeting, scheduled for later this week. Tempers are not cooling in Laramie County between some local Republicans and their county clerk. The Wyoming Republican Party censured Laramie County Clerk Deborah Lee on Saturday for the second time this year over the way she conducted voting machine testing in this year's elections. That's according to politics reporter Leo Wolfson.
This stems from frustration that the state party has over election machine tests that Lee conducted for the primary and general elections. These tests, the party alleges, did not align with state law and were missing critical pieces of information in the tests that were performed. Tim Stubson, a Casper attorney who's representing Lee in her official capacity in this lawsuit, said the party is looking for controversy where none exists and that she did nothing to break the law.
The resolution passed by the GOP on Saturday asks for Lee's resignation by December 1st. If she does not resign, the party plans to petition Governor Mark Gordon to remove her. I'll be back with more news right after this.
Are you fabulous and 55? Are you ready to use your valuable time and talent to give back? Join Serve Wyoming through the AmeriCorps Seniors Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, or RSVP, and make a positive impact on your community. With a lifetime of skills and experiences, you're exactly what your community needs. Whether you're itching to lend a hand or your organization could use some extra support, we've got you covered. Call Sarah Roberts at Serve Wyoming at 307-234-3428 or RSVP at servewyoming.org.
The Wyoming Department of Transportation and contractor Ames Construction have been working around the clock to rebuild the mountain beneath Teton Pass. Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi reports that crews will continue working 24-hour shifts until winter decides they're done for the season.
They've analyzed what happened with the failure back in June and then applied that knowledge to the permanent solution for Teton Pass. So the new Teton Pass is going to be the old Teton Pass. It's going to be the same road, same curvature, same footprint, but they've drilled steel pillars into the bedrock and they're supporting that with a thick layer of concrete. They've put in new fill that's more structurally sound and reinforced. And they've also installed a drainage system because the reason why the highway failed back in June was it was saturated with water very quickly, and that reduced all of its strength or eliminated all of its strength.
The permanent solution for Wyoming Highway 22 will be finished by the end of July 2025, just over a year after the catastrophic collapse of the highway. And when two of Wyoming's most cantankerous species, coyotes and badgers, set aside their differences and team up to go after prairie dogs and ground squirrels, the rodents have nowhere to hide. Outdoors reporter Mark Hines spoke to wildlife photographers and biologists who all say the unlikely pairing isn't uncommon.
The badger will go in the hole and start digging, and the coyote will kind of bounce around the exits, and whoever gets the rodent first gets lunch, and whoever misses it, I guess, has to try again. But this biologist said regardless of which one gets it first, the other one doesn't get upset and try to fight him for it. So who knew?
Between a badger's relentless digging prowess and a coyote's speed and agility, it's a near certainty that the burrowing varmints are going to end up being somebody's lunch. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Wendy Core for Cowboy State Daily.
Cowboy State Daily. Yeah, we're back to it. 7:04 on this Tuesday, Cowboy State Daily show with Jake, and we're digging right into the top story of the day. Claire McFarland, abortion will remain legal in Wyoming as the judge blocks abortion bans. Two of them, Teton County District Court Judge Melissa Owens blocked Wyoming's two abortion bans on Monday. Yesterday, Claire McFarland broke that story for the Cowboy State Daily. Nobody was on it earlier than her. She had been watching that court, waiting for that decision. It came down yesterday, just short of 5 o'clock, and about 4:40. And Claire was right there, right on it with the story. Here's what Judge Owens said. And as Greg Johnson and I talked earlier this morning, this is not likely the end of the issue. This will head all the way to the state Supreme Court. In fact, it landed at the state Supreme Court earlier, and they said, well, you haven't even tried this in district court yet. You're not just handing us the first run of a case. The Supreme Court's the highest court in the state. And you're not going to start there. That's where you end. So they said, go back and run this through the minor leagues first, and then we'll talk about it. But what Melissa Owens found, the judge, after studying this 1.5-year lawsuit, her summary judgment said, basically declared abortion is health care. And that was a primary crux of the lawsuits. Abortion is health care. Therefore, it would be unconstitutional to block a woman or a man's right to a procedure, to health care. That's just a violation of state constitution, where a provision in the state constitution promises health care autonomy. And if abortion is indeed health care, that's where the logjam is. The plaintiffs who sued to block the bans include an abortion clinic, an abortion support group, an obstetrician gynecologist, and an abortion and 2 women in their childbearing years. They sued the state of Wyoming and Teton County authorities in March of 2023. Of course, you got the U.S. Supreme Court that overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022, leaving things to the states and how they want to handle abortion. In Wyoming, the proposition was to ban all abortions with the exception for rape, incest, and serious risk to the mother's health. The other ban on abortion would have outlawed the marketing of chemical abortion drugs with a few exceptions. Neither of those will go forward, according to Judge Owens in her ruling late yesterday afternoon. Our own Clara McFarland has more on the story as she talks it out with Wendy Core.
Wyoming's 2 abortion bans are unconstitutional and will be blocked from being enforced. That's what a Jackson-based judge ruled on Monday. Teton County District Court Judge Melissa Owens concluded a 1.5-year lawsuit Monday with that summary judgment order, according to Cowboy State Daily's Clara McFarland.
Judge Melissa Owens ruled Monday that abortion is healthcare, that the state's laws and stated purposes of these bans don't overcome an individual's right to that healthcare. Lastly, she said that she's blocking the bans from going into effect altogether. So they've been temporarily blocked during this litigation for 1.5 years. Like, we're going to pause these, decide if they're constitutional. This is just an outright block. These are not constitutional. You cannot enforce them.
Wyoming lawmakers and pro-lifers have a few different options going forward. The state can appeal Owens' ruling to the Wyoming Supreme Court. The legislature can try to pass a different ban that shows a compelling government interest, or the Wyoming legislature and the voters can pass a new constitutional amendment.
Yeah, that hopefully lays it out a little better for you, a little better than I can. I am not political, but the whole abortion, pro-life, whatever the correct PC terminology for the issue is, I'll put myself in the Jake's Take room because things is fixing to get opinionated.
The views and opinions expressed on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show are solely those of its host and do not necessarily represent those of Cowboy State Daily's reporters, editorial staff, or ownership.
Yeah, just for my 2 cents, because I've got a microphone in front of me, my 2 cents isn't worth any more than your 2 cents. In fact, I'll give you 4 cents on my 2 cents. I'll just throw it in there because I host a morning radio show and we got to talk about something. But the abortion issue, where this, I can see why this is so difficult to unravel, so contentious, and even with politics removed, and I know it's become literally, and that term gets used a lot, political football. It gets used to the point where it almost doesn't mean anything anymore. What's a political football? This is a political football where it's the issue, the topic is used by politicians to get votes, to get in office, to show you how they feel, so you'll vote or not vote for them, or not vote for that guy, and taking stripping politics out of it. Does a woman own her womb and have the right to have access to a legal, safe abortion? At what point in the pregnancy would most of us be comfortable with allowing that? Obviously, the later it happens, the more we realize there is a person inside of you growing. In the first month, is that a person? At what point does life start? That's going to be the crux. That's the key. When does life begin? At the heartbeat? At the sperm and the egg meeting? When the kid pops out and takes its first breath of air? Where does life begin? That, if we can't answer that, we're not going to even be able to get into the abortion issues. So ask yourself that. When does life begin? When do you consider that a life? And if it is a life and you terminate pregnancy, how is that not killing a life, taking a life? So again, I don't want to put myself in the crosshairs of a very tough issue, because I have my feelings. I would lean as a believing and practicing Christian that it's wrong to take a life at any point in a pregnancy. I believe that is a life. But I recognize that I don't own a womb. I am not a woman. I can't even get there, believe me, from what I've seen of the wife and most women I know. I'm not even close to being able to get to that mindset. So I'm not there. I'm not you. And the idea that, old white-haired white men can tell you, women, what to do with your body is worrisome at most, at least. So it's tough. It's tough legislating it. It's a tough issue, and I see why. And so Claire McFarland's story, she navigates it smoothly this morning with at least just the story, just the facts, Jack. Abortion will remain legal in Wyoming as Judge Melissa Owens, she's a Teton County District Court judge, strikes down the 2 abortion bans. During the year and a half where Judge Owens was contemplating her decision, she temporarily blocked the abortion ban. So Wyoming has never, abortion in Wyoming has never been illegal. It's remained legal. And we're talking about, again, abortions in Wyoming, not many. I think at last count there were 2 clinics that were performing abortions, one here in Teton County and one in maybe Natrona. I forget where, but there's not many. Not that that matters for pro-life. One life is too many lives. But the issue is certainly important in Wyoming, and it's certainly important in the United States. This abortion issue, it has become political for maybe all the wrong reasons, but it is hugely difficult to unravel and get to any kind of consensus on this. I don't see it happening anytime soon. Where this Owens decision is headed is likely the Supreme Court, likely that this is going to be appealed at the district court level, and the Wyoming Supreme Court will have to rule on this. So it'll be another couple of years before that comes down. That whole decision might be a lot more complicated than this story from our own Mark Hines that concealed carry on campus being considered at UW. They had a big panel discussion on Monday, yesterday, about the carrying of concealed firearms. Opinions were split over whether to allow concealed firearms on the University of Wyoming campus during a town hall meeting on Monday, although most there who spoke out seemed against the idea. In fact, UW Branding Iron Campus newspaper, the editor-in-chief, Van Meester, said, if the majority of students say they don't want this, then who is this for? And most polls have shown that the majority of the students that go to UW are not interested in carrying firearms on campus. Anyone under 21 would not be allowed to carry, even if something were passed to allow concealed carry. It would be presumably security, professors, perhaps students that were 21 and older. Somebody did bring up an interesting and frightening scenario. What if an RA in your dorm was 21 or older, had a firearm, and went on some kind of shooting spree, heaven forbid? In fact, it was Van Meester, was the editor of the newspaper, who argued this scenario. He said, what if, God forbid, an RA went on a shooting spree? The other dorm residents, not old enough to carry, would be defenseless. So again, who is this for? Any kind of movement to have carry, but the folks that are for carrying firearms on campus, in particular, one quoted in the Mark Hines story, UW alumnus Sandy Reese, who spoke in favor of allowing concealed carry. It was Reese with the quote, who's kind of seems to be making the woke issue about this. We need to follow statutes and laws, not squishy feelings and surveys, Reese said. And the law, presumably, is the law of the land, which is the Second Amendment, which is the right to bear arms, should not be infringed. So that means without good cause, you should be able to carry a gun to your geometry class if you want to. The panel included UW Chief of Police Josh Holland, UW President Ed Seidel, UW Vice President and General Counsel Tara Evans, George Moskery, the Director of Firearms Research Center, was there, and the professor. He's also a professor at UW College of Law. Interesting. And the reason, obviously, I this morning I was wondering, well, why? You know, who wants to carry? Is there a big group out there that says we should be toting guns in college, and they want to be heard, and they want to, you know, that's not the case. The case, as Greg Johnson pointed out, rightly so, is there were bills designed in legislative session last year that would have defined carrying firearms, would have defined whether there be gun-free zones or not. In Wyoming, lawmakers were saying, hey, if you have the right to bear arms, you should be able to carry a gun wherever you want to carry a gun. It's your constitutional right, except for perhaps in bars where alcohol is involved. You know, there may be some exceptions, but for the most part, you should be able to carry firearms, including on school grounds and on college campus. That bill was dropped on Governor Gordon's desk, and he didn't like it, and he vetoed it. And he said, I'd rather have these decisions made by the institutions themselves. Go to the church. Ask them if they want guns there. Go to the schools. Ask them if they want guns at their schools. Go to UW. Go to Laramie and ask the University of Wyoming whether they want to allow firearms or not. That should be their decision. And that's why we get here, and that's why they're discussing. Mark Hines has more. He talked to Wendy Corr about the story.
Opinions were split over whether to allow concealed firearms on the University of Wyoming campus during a town hall meeting on campus Monday. Outdoors reporter Mark Hines attended the town hall where panelists discussed a draft proposal to loosen UW's firearms policy. He reported that most who spoke out seemed to be against the idea.
There's a proposal that is going before the UW trustees later this week. The Cliff Notes are would be only for people holding concealed carry permits, and they would have to be age 21 and up. So no open carry, no long guns, nothing like that. Most of the people who attended this meeting do not want to see concealed carry guns on UW campus. They cited concern about accidental shootings, suicides, just the overall danger of the thing.
If approved by the UW Board of Trustees, the proposal would allow concealed carry permit holders to carry firearms in most UW facilities. It's set to be considered by trustees during their next meeting, scheduled for later this week.
Yeah, we'll put this topic on pause as we get Don Day into the Zoom room. Don, sorry we're a little late for you this morning. How's everything?
It's not Monday anymore, so that's good.
Okay. Yeah, we're just progressing towards Friday, man. That's the goal. That's the end zone. The goal is, though, to try to figure out, and I'm going to use you before I place my bet. We're doing a little internal Cowboy State Daily bet on when that stop sign on Togety Pass is completely covered with snow, if at all. And the official betting, the official game is the polls closed on that on Sunday. So we're going to do our own little deal. And I'm going to use you as my expert witness, man, before I place my bet. You got a day where you think this year we can cover that stop sign at Togety? When snow falls on Togety, it don't go anywhere. I mean, there's not a lot of melting up there. So what do you think?
Well, I mean, if you just look, if you want to take a scientific approach, you would say that if it's going to get buried, it's likely going to get buried when we tend to see the bigger snows where you can really pile up. Because I think what'll happen is that, through the course of the winter, they plow around that sign, so there's a little bit of stuff going on where the snow gets piled up kind of around the edges of it there.
Yeah, man-made manipulation a little bit.
But you'd have to probably think that, the bigger snows tend to fall late winter, early spring. And then by then we should have a good base built up. So it would most likely happen later in the season than as opposed to, let's say, the middle.
I'm totally with you on that. I was thinking like March 20th because I want those March storms. And I've been snow machining up on Togety on if not April. I want to say it was late. It might have been April when I seen the wickedest whiteout blizzard I've ever seen.
Well, yeah, if you look at snowpack data,
a
lot of times you'll see that the deepest snow happens around April 1st. Or it can. So late March, I think, I think you've done well with your guess.
I just, before I place my bet, though, I want to hear it from your lips to my ears on the down low. Say it quietly. Shh. What's the exact date?
March 27th.
Bingo. Thank you. Place everything I own on March 27th. Awesome. What's the deal with this cigar cloud, and why, when pilots see it, do they take an extra grip on the joystick? Man, that thing is weird. At Sunday morning sunrise photo over Hart Mountain, that weird shaped cloud looks like a rope or a cigar or something.
Well, yeah, you'll get those interesting shapes. That's a lenticular cloud. They're very common around the world and where you have mountainous terrain. When you get into the cold season, as you get into fall, winter, and early spring, when the winds aloft start to get stronger, those jet stream winds, when they run perpendicular or at an angle near perpendicular to the ridges, you get this wave function that forms because the air responds as it goes over the mountains. And that's why downwind of mountain ranges, you talk about turbulence and flying, is you're going to be flying through those up and down waves as they come off the mountains. So on the west side of the mountains, you don't have that wave yet. but on the downwind side is where you get them. And those clouds, they take a funny shape because they form on the top of the wave. So, and if you were just to draw on a piece of paper a little sine wave, at the top of that wave is where those clouds form, and each wave is shaped differently. And in that particular photo, it was only that little sliver that was moist enough to make a cloud, because a lot of times those waves are there, but you don't see them because the cloud hasn't been made. It's basically the cloud is showing you where that wave is. And so when you see those and you're about ready to get in an airplane, it's just, buckle up.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a little bumpy. I mean, for folks who have flown into Denver, you hear this every time as you approach Denver. The captain will come on. We're going to have our flight crew take their seats a little early as we make approach into Denver. Right? Yeah. So that's what's happening. And even in the summer, you'll get
ding dong. Get time to buckle up, get out of the bathroom. Beverage cart hits the roof. Yeah. Okay, so, all right, my takeaway is this is a rare glimpse for us laymen to see what is usually hidden to us, what Don Day, our meteorologist, sees all the time. You have some kind of, weather X-ray glasses. You see whether these form clouds or not, you see the unseen when it comes to what's going on in the sky, what's going on in the weather. And what do you see for this week? It's chilly this morning, Don. Thanks for that.
It's going to be one of our colder days of the season, without a doubt. We'll still have a few flurries around, especially over the northern and western mountains. It's just going to be a cold, blustery day. You look outside and you go, well, it doesn't look that bad. But then you step outside and you feel how cold and windy it is, and you want to go back in. That's how today will roll. However, I've got good news, is that really from tomorrow through Friday, it's a pretty decent stretch of weather. We're going to see a lot of stormy weather in the Great Lakes and up into New England. We're going to see the Pacific Northwest just get plastered. I mean, we're looking at hurricane force winds off the coast of Washington and Oregon, and they've got blizzard warnings and snow warnings for the Cascades. In fact, Mount Hood, their ski area opening up the earliest in 15 years. So things are beginning to change, and some of that weather that's crashing the Pacific Northwest will eventually get into Wyoming by the weekend and early next week.
Okay. Well, thanks for that, Pacific Coast. All right. Well, that's what we got to do. Thanks for your expert advice. March 27th, you and I'll share the loot with you when we win.
We'll go up and we'll get a picture on top of the sign.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Don.
Bye-bye.
Don Day, day weather forecast every Monday through Friday, 7:20. Don Day joins us live and tips us off as to all kinds of weather stuff, like what's that crazy cloud and when does that stop sign get buried in snow? Just weird things. Could we ever have a 1930s Dust Bowl era again? I try to challenge him, but Don Day's always up to the task. Amazing. Where are we today? I got to take a look at our guests because I have to manage our stories and manage our time today. Jackie Dorothy. Oh, fantastic, because she has a whole mess of stories. Jackie's going to be on about 7:40, and we'll wrap with her. You know who we're trying to work on getting some high-ranking Wyoming politicians on the show. I don't want to give too much away, but we're working on getting Harriet Hagman on the show, Senator John Barrasso we're trying to get on the show just because, they're always in the news and they're important to Wyoming, and they would be a great coup for the morning show. That's the biggest reason to have those big names on the show. So, we're trying to get that cooked up for the next week or two. And, not that any guest is more important than another, because we really need Jackie Dorothy. She'll be up here in about 10 minutes. She's got some fantastic stories in the Cowboy State Daily you've got to read. We'll take a quick break, come back and tee up a few more of the morning stories in the Cowboy State Daily.
continues.
7:33 on this Tuesday, Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake. I agree, David Howell. Can we just skip winter this year, please, and have a wet summer, let's say? David Howell joins the Facebook discussion. I agree. I'm probably in the minority for Wyoming. One of the reasons I'm in Wyoming is for enjoying all 4 seasons. Like, I don't think I could ever live in a state where you didn't get fall and winter, but I just don't want winter to be like 10 months long. And I know there's some places in Wyoming winter is a little shorter, but where I am, winter is like here forever, and you get 2 weeks of summer, and then you're right back to winter. I never put away the snow shovel. It's just always out. Yeah, people, they do winter things. They love to snow machine and ski. I mean, I used to ski. I'm kind of over it now. I'm just over snow. It's just, snow is always in the way. Snow creates an extra 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes of every day dealing with it. The other day, I had to go get my trailer. I had to go, my night job, I'm a DJ, and I had to DJ a winter wedding last winter. And often, many winters, I have some kind of party or something I have to DJ, so I have to get the trailer. And the trailer's buried in snow, so I got to dig it out, dig. And then I get the trailer all dug out, and I have to hook it up. And the jack that raises the trailer is frozen solid. So I got to get a torch. I got this butane propane torch thing, and I got to put fire on it for like 20 minutes, thaw it out so I can jack up the trailer. Then I got my ball hitch, which needs to be dropped. It needs to be lowered for this particular trailer. That's frozen solid. I'm going to put fire on that. An hour later, I can finally hook up to this trailer and try to pull it out of its sleepy, snowy, icy tomb. Oh, yeah, winter's great. And everything inside the trailer is frozen solid, so I can't just get to this gig, set up, and go. I got to get to the gig early in the morning so I can bring the equipment in so it can come back to life to room temperature because it's been 20 below for 3 weeks. Yeah, winter. Winter's so great. Going skiing, dude. Grab your board, dude. Let's go skiing. Everywhere you drive, there's people doing all kinds of squirrely things on the road. Some dude with Arizona plates spinning into a ditch. Oh, man. Winter. Where was I? I was saying that, yeah, David Howell's exactly right. Can we just, Don Day, though, he said the recent snow we're getting is staying up in the mountains, which is good. That's where snow belongs, not down on the road, not down in front of my trailer. Let's keep it up in the mountains. And then when we need you, snow, we can go up and use you. And then in the springs, you melt and fill the rivers and grow some hay. We all good. That's how you do winter. But yeah, a big reason I'm here is I was hoping winter would scare off more people than it does. But somehow some adventurous people can stick it out in Wyoming. Like, that was my one big reason to move to Wyoming, is because it was the least populated state. I thought, that's great. It's not that I hate people. I just feel better when they're not around, as Chuck Bukowski once said. I need elbow room. And I thought the winters in Wyoming would keep undesirables away. But it hasn't enough. And what it's done is make me annoyed and sick of winter. Maybe I'm the one who needs to go away. Yeah, all right. Winner. I won't be a Scrooge. Bring it on. This story from Claire McFarland. She's been following this story, and this is another one that's complicated. Maybe not as much as the abortion issue, but I think there's complications to it, I think. And I know the majority of Wyoming folks would say, this isn't complicated. This is easy. Boys are boys and girls are girls, and they should not mix on the volleyball court or the football field or the hockey rink. Let boys play boys sports, girls play girls sports. Simple. I don't disagree with that. I think it's unfair for women to be expected to play against someone who was born male, who may have transitioned. To what degree? Here's the problem. I mean, what qualifies you if you were biologically born a certain gender and you have somehow transitioned to the other gender? To what degree? Some people do it to the degree where body parts are added or removed. Drugs are taken. Obviously, there's surgery perhaps involved in to the degree where honestly your closest friends don't know your secret. And then there are other cases where, that swimmer or that boxer is so obviously not a woman that it looks dangerous. You're like, that's a dude. You ever see those women wearing their swimsuits and they have "not a dude" written on them? So there's a degree of how you've transitioned that could be in play. So you can't do it on a case by case. You just have to make a clean cut. If you were born this gender, you can't play sports against the other gender. And I feel for Blake Fleming. She's in the middle of a firestorm. And the latest news from Claire McFarland is Wyoming delegation is urging the Mountain West Conference to simply ban males from women's sports. Right now, the Mountain West Conference, including the NCAA, currently allows transgender athletes to compete. But 10 members of Wyoming's Congress sent a letter to the Mountain West urging the commissioner to just ban it. Get out ahead of this rather than try to catch up by making up rules at the last minute. Senator Cynthia Lummis, Wyoming, wrote in a post on X, "Life isn't fair, but sports should be." I joined Senator James Risch in sending a letter to the Mountain West Commissioner demanding the conference fix the inequities that women's sports teams like the Wyoming Cowgirls face this season. It's tough issue. Or is it? The application of Title IX, Commissioner Gloria Navarez is in a tough spot. But I just hope that when we talk about this story and whether we feel women should play women and men should play men, etc., I hope when we're talking about it that the actual persons, in this case, I think I called her Blair Fleming. In this case, she's not, her personally is not dragged through the mud. And in this story of Claire McFarland, I see things like other lawsuits claiming that Fleming hasn't been playing fair, that she may be throwing games, that she may be allowing her own teammates to get spiked on. And I hate that we're going there and pointing fingers at Fleming, who it can't be easy for her either. But yeah, story still in the news. Let's get Jackie Dorothy into the Zoom room. Jackie has got a zillion stories. I don't know how we're going to get to them all, but we'll do our best. Cowboy State Daily Morning Show continues, 7:43. Jackie, hi. What's going on?
Hi. Oh gosh, so much snow here in Thermopolis. How's it in Jackson?
Yeah, we got more than I thought we was going to get. So, yep, we're doing pretty good.
We weren't expecting any, so this has been a surprise, but we're not going to complain because it's moisture.
Yeah. I'm getting tired of saying that. It's what we need the moisture. Yeah. It's I'll go explain that to the
when you look at
What's that?
Go ahead.
If you
I was just going to say it's like when you look at drought.
Do you must monitor our audio on the broadcast rather than in your Zoom, so you're on a delay. It's like talking to somebody who's stationed in Sweden or Mars, or now you're just frozen. Maybe you're trying to adjust, but we always have a delay when I talk to you because I think you're watching the broadcast, maybe.
Yes, I do pay attention to your broadcast. It's fun to watch.
I mean, not that you shouldn't. I mean, that's a good thing. But when we're talking, if you stay on the Zoom audio, you'll hear me in real time better, I think. Yes?
Okay. I accidentally had you on HughesNet, and I switched over to Starlink. We do know Starlink is better. So there we are.
All right.
I keep it as a backup.
Look at you, IT. You're like the new IT person, like jumping around.
I apologize I didn't have it ready to go, but I am excited to talk about raw milk today. It's been a very interesting topic to dive into.
Well, your story follows two others that we had the other day that involve small micro dairies and creameries that exist only because of this Food Freedom Act that Wyoming has passed, and only because you're allowed to go direct to consumer. It's so key to these small time ranches and farmers. And you've uncovered a pretty cool story that this could get bigger than Wyoming, maybe.
It might be, because I was looking at it, that Robert Kennedy was appointed to go over the federal, I can't even remember what it's called. I have it right here. But what was interesting is looking at all of his protocols, what he was looking at, and raw milk was one of the number one things. So because we're Wyoming, we're agriculture, I started digging into it. It's like, what is it about raw milk that he likes? What is it that people are complaining about? What would I personally do? And I think that what I like is it's the food freedom. You are now given the chance to drink raw milk, because it was even forbidden when you milked your own cow, you were not allowed to drink the milk. Even though you knew that cow was healthy, you knew that milk was good, you had to pasteurize it because they were so worried about people getting sick. And what was really interesting is when you look at the history of it, people weren't getting sick from the always from the bacteria. It was from the lime they were putting in the milk because it was blue and they didn't like blue milk.
Interesting.
And they didn't know that it was the lime. They thought it was all this other stuff.
In your story, you do explain a little bit on pasteurization, what it is and why we ever needed it to begin with, because I didn't understand this. This is kind of eye-opening. Can you talk about that a little bit? Why milk has to be pasteurized, or does it?
It helps if the cow is unhealthy, if there's unsanitary conditions. I mean, you would get into those large, especially during the Industrial Revolution. Things were happening at a fast clip. We're familiar with that. Look at this age of the internet, AI, everybody's trying to keep up. Same thing happened back at the turn of the century. You had all this modern technology, people moving from the farms, and they would literally bring their cows with them so that they'd have fresh milk. But there wasn't the pastures, there wasn't the grass. So they were eating this spent brewery grains that didn't have any nutrients in it. Their milk was turning blue. They're looking at that. You're not supposed to have blue milk. So they started throwing lime into the milk. come along Louis Pasteur, and he's like, let's pasteurize it. Let's boil out all the bad bacteria. But unfortunately, you also get rid of the good bacteria.
So
that's what happened. Too much of a good thing.
Louis just put a Band-Aid on the problem. When we all brought Bessie off the farm and moved into the city, there was the problem, moving in, urban living.
All that junk food.
I didn't know that. So that's very interesting. I know a lot of people swear by the raw milk thing. They swear, like, knowing where your food comes from is so important to people, farm to fork. That movement is huge, and I like it. I'm all for it in Wyoming. I'm glad Wyoming's taking care of stuff. But you have indication maybe that JFK Jr., this might be something near and dear to him, that they would allow something to go U.S. federal wide.
First of all, I got to point out you did exactly what I did. It's RFK.
RFK. Sorry.
Kennedy.
Right.
I know. I keep doing that too, so I had to tease you about it.
Good. I'm glad you brought.
We're going back to the 60s, right?
If you didn't say it, I'd have texts and comments saying, "You moron." So I'm glad you cut to the chase there. All right, good job.
I got caught saying it, so you're not the only one.
But we might get there. I mean, not that, does Wyoming care? I love things being Wyoming. I'm glad we can do it in our state, that we took care of it first. We always show we're smarter than the country. But maybe countrywide, according to your story.
And that's what they're advising. And they've been, one of the people I talked to is Jack Smith. He has been an advocate of raw milk as long as I've known him. He swears by it. He was raised on it. But he says you need to, have caution out there, because there are bad players. There are people that won't go through all the protocols themselves. And so that's where he's just cautioning, know where your milk comes from. Make sure it does come from a healthy cow and someone you trust.
I want my milk to come from the Jersey cows over there at Little Acres Farm in Lovell. They look so cute. I'm showing a photo of them now from your story. Is this the coolest dairy farm ever?
It is. And I love it because their kids are involved and all the cows have names. They're well loved. They want to be milked because, they want that attention that they're getting. So you get happy milk. I think happy cows make happy milk.
That I've heard that. And you got to play them. You have to sing to them and play them music. I know that other, the hippie cow people. Yeah, they would play a Michael Bublé. I'm not sure what the protocol is to get the best milk, but I did love this story, especially the ranch kids, these farm kids. They have some 17 cows, I think, and it takes 5 kids. Rebecca Bates is running the show over there at Little Acres Farm in Lovell, and she puts the kids to, this is like how they did it back when. The kids go to work, 5 children, ranging in age from 11 to 20, and they have to chore and take care of the 17 cows on this little micro dairy. I like this place.
No, I think it's really cool to be able to highlight these dairies too, because when we first started digging into it as a news team, there were people saying, we have dairies? Wyoming has dairies?
Yeah.
You think about our meat, our cattle, you don't think about the dairy section, and it really isn't growing as fast as people anticipated, because we've been allowed to have raw milk for, I think it's been 10 years. And you really don't have that many places offering it. Hopefully, as people become more aware of raw milk, the demand increases, we will have more opportunities to purchase it ourselves.
Yeah, Cowboy State, obviously known more for the beef industry. We got way more Angus and Brangus than we got Jersey and Holsteins. But, it's not to say that this couldn't be a dairy production state. Never like Wisconsin, but we're, with this Food Freedom Act is the game changer, and this just highlights it even more. Great story, Jackie. What else? Oh, the search and rescue, dude. Again, every time I talk to Jen and we talk missing persons, it's so eerie, because I think all of us inherently just don't like the idea that someone can disappear and never be found. And, their memory, everything about them is wiped away and gone. And it haunts this one guy who in 1963 was sent to look for a teenage brothers. And I just hate when one says, here, take my coat. I'll build you a fire. I'll go for help. Guess who is the one who gets found by the searchers and the one who doesn't? The guy who goes for help. Oh, man. Tell us about this story.
So this is one that, as you know, I got to say that our readers have come forth and the stories that they've shared with me bring tears to your eyes. This happened 61 years ago, and it still haunts the family, the people that searched for him. I had one guy reach out and say, my dad's 98 years old. He was searching for him back in the 60s. What happened is there was these two boys went rabbit hunting. They were 15 and 16, wrecked the car, and the 15-year-old was left by the wreck by his older brother, who apparently they think went off to look for help. And it became a massive search. I mean, we're talking the governor even got involved. He brought in the National Guard. They wanted to find this kid. They wanted answers. They really did believe that within 2 or 3 days that he was gone, that they were looking for a body. But I have got to read this email to you. I just received this yesterday, and this is from George Liska, who is the 90-year-old that was involved in the search. He said he got this from a family friend, and this is what the family friend said. I remember this well. Many thought because Ed's dad was so abusive that he went to the highway and hitched a ride out of the state because of fear of what his father might do to him. Rick was the same age as me, and Ed was a year older. It is a memory I will never forget. And this is from Georgia. And so she sent this to George, the 90-year-old searcher, and he wrote me this email. Jackie, I never thought I would receive an email from a friend of ours that lived in Green River and knew the Eskridge boys and went to school with the younger of the two. After over 60 years, I never dreamed I'd have hope that Ed would still be living somewhere. Maybe someone could read your story and solve the mystery. Wouldn't that be something, George?
Wouldn't it? Here's a photo of the two players in this story from Jackie. On the right is the 90-year-old who was on that search party, really because, I mean, back then there wasn't an official search parties. What usually happened is the sheriff would get on the blower and said, yeah, you know, does anybody have a good Jeep? And that happened to be this fella. George Liska, who had a Jeep that could get into access these areas. And so he became a de facto search guy. And it has bothered him all these years that the guy on the left, Edward Eskridge, the 16-year-old, was never found, and maybe purposely that way. Interesting to think about, and that may give some peace to Mr. Liska. Really weird story.
It really is. And one that really, I mean, it's been the cousins, second cousins, all reaching out, friends, neighbors saying, we remember. And they've always wondered, why couldn't all these searchers? I mean, you're talking about, they got hunters, people that knew the area. They searched that ravine where his footprints were last seen, up and down. And then there was another person that sent a story in and said that he was dragging his foot, so they thought he was injured. I mean, there's all these little details you couldn't find in the newspaper accounts that these people are remembering. And if we could bring peace to them and actually figure out what happened to Ed, that's what I think torments all of these searchers and the family, is the not knowing. Like you talk to Jen about it, and it's why the cold cases, why people spend so much of their time trying to solve them.
Yeah, I would like to know more about this. You know, I would like to know in which direction Edward Eskridge supposedly went, where he thought he was going to find help. I kind of know this area, White Mountain, Pilot Butte near Rock Springs. It's not the gnarliest country you could get lost in when I think about places where you could disappear just walking 100 yards out of camp and, you know, they wouldn't find you. I mean, it's weird that if he was going for help, why wouldn't he walk the road back the way they came or walk, just so much of it doesn't make sense. And of course, this is 1963. So the ability to employ drones and heat seeking things and, we can do a lot more. Yeah. That's just weird.
They really, the area.
Yeah.
That gets you is how did they not find any evidence? How did he just disappear?
Very strange. Speaking, by the way, of dairy cows or beef cows, you also had that story about, a lot of ranchers. We probably could have anticipated this with the elk fire. We were talking about how much pasture that fire burned, and ranchers sitting on cows now wondering how they're going to get them through the winter with hay that burned up in wildfires and then the drought. A lot of ranchers in Wyoming are choosing right now just to cut their losses and go to sale and then see what they can do next year maybe. But huge sales, huge numbers.
Yeah. Record number sales. What I learned is that Mondays is when people would sell their pregnant cows. And Wednesday is when you sell the calves. And Friday, you sell all the cold cows that weren't pregnant that are going to market for beef. And historically, over the last 10 years, it's about 3,000 is a top number, and that's a good day. And the third Friday in November is the biggest sale day of the year. It happens that way all the time. But what Torrington Market saw is 4,000 cows came to market. They've never had that many. They said that when I was talking to them on that Friday, last Friday, they said they were going to be there till midnight selling these cows. They've never seen that number. The other thing they're learning is that a lot of ranchers have been selling off their entire herds. And so the rancher I did speak with, Donna Hunt, she said that they were selling the heart of their herd. They were selling mamas that they've had for years, and these are pregnant cows. They were going to go put them in pasture, but because of the drought conditions in their area, it wasn't even the fire, it was drought conditions. She says the Black Hills usually have streams flowing year round, and they're seeing that the stream is not that... there's not that much water. And so for concern for her cows, she's been selling them. And this yesterday, they sold, I think 400 of their 800 cow herd. So it was heartbreaking, but she says she's doing that to stay in business. They're not going out of business. They're hanging on, and they've been there since 1926, but she's never seen this many cows that they've had to sell.
Yeah, she talked about the conditions being unprecedented. No rain, no grass, very little water. That's what I'm seeing. This rancher Hunt, she's not alone. A lot of ranchers seeing the same kind of thing. And just for the uninitiated, if you didn't come from the ranching community, fall is when you ship to market your calves that have been weaned. That's when you make your money, and you will hold back some of your good, tough mama cows that are good producers. They get pregnant and throw calves, and they'll get through a winter. But it's them are being also sold because you're just not going to be able to feed them through this winter, and who knows what's going to happen spring, summer. So that's disturbing. Hopefully we make a rebound, but we'll have to talk to Don Day, get some weather changes, huh?
Yeah, I know, because when you hear about somebody selling the heart of their herd, and you know that they're selling their profits, their future profits, in order to save the cows. That's what ranching is about. I know it's a tough business, but I think that we also should have the sympathy for him and just hope that, yes, this snow might be irritating, but it's going to help our cattle and our agricultural industry.
Well, ranching is not for the faint of heart a business, and neither is running a stagecoach or riding a bareback bronc in the rodeo. Those two stories we got to hold for the next time we see you. We're going to talk about Rodeo Farrell, who it's so weird. His mom and dad, his parents say, if you're going to go into rodeo, please don't be a bareback, right? We'd much rather you be a bull rider. And that, instead of like, why can't you be the clown in the barrel or a pickup guy or something safe, the guy who pulls the gate, No, but a bareback rider. We'd rather have you ride a bull. But Rodeo Pharaoh made that choice, and man, he's pretty darn good at it. We'll talk about him and the dude who's had all kinds of jobs, but probably never more dangerous than running a stagecoach back in the day in Wyoming, where people wanted to shoot at you and steal from you. Man, that's Western. We'll talk about those stories.
Is.
So,
a coal miner who says that stagecoach is much more dangerous.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to mining coal. This stagecoach thing is, that's a short lifespan doing that. That's crazy story. Great stories, Jackie. Let's talk about those Thursday.
Sounds good. And I'll remember to have my Starlink on next time I pop on.
I love the Starlink. It is much, much, much better. That's the key. You're now
really is.
You're now the new morning show IT person. You've just we gave you that job. Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Talk to you later.
Jackie
Bye.
Dorothy, we'll stop in with her on Thursday. She has 2 more stories we couldn't even get to that are fantastic. You're going to love them, buddy. It is top of the hour, and we got to get to Wendy Court and her news right now.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming. I'm Wendy Court, bringing you stories from the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom for Tuesday, November 19th. A Jackson-based judge ruled Monday that Wyoming's 2 abortion bans are unconstitutional and will be blocked from being enforced. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that Teton County District Court Judge Melissa Owens issued that order, concluding a 1.5-year lawsuit on Monday.
Judge Melissa Owens ruled Monday that abortion is healthcare, that the state's laws and stated purposes of these bans don't overcome an individual's right to that healthcare. Lastly, she said that she's blocking the bans from going into effect altogether. So they've been temporarily blocked during this litigation for 1.5 years. Like, we're going to pause these, decide if they're constitutional. This is just an outright block. These are not constitutional. You cannot enforce them.
Wyoming lawmakers and pro-lifers have a few different options going forward. The state can appeal Owens' ruling to the Wyoming Supreme Court. The legislature can try to pass a different ban that shows a compelling government interest, or the Wyoming legislature and the voters can pass a new constitutional amendment. Well, in all states, milk must still be pasteurized to sell commercially in a store. In Wyoming, you can only buy raw milk directly from producers or through their agents. Raw milk is still illegal in many states, though, although Cowboy State Daily's Jackie Dorothy reports that this may change under the incoming presidential administration.
How the laws stand right now is that it's consumer right from the farmer themselves. And so the question gets to be is if this goes on the federal level, where will be that safety factor and how much do you have to regulate?
With President-elect Donald Trump's nomination of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as head of the Department of Health and Human Services, raw milk may soon become legal to sell nationwide. One of Kennedy's agenda items is to allow for the sale of the controversial agricultural product. Well, James Temple came into work at the Sheridan County Elections Office last Tuesday expecting a relatively normal day. It had been exactly 1 week since the completion of this year's elections, an event Temple saw as very successful in his county. But Sheridan County Clerk Ida Shunk-Thompson fired him first thing that day without giving any explanation why. Temple told politics reporter Leah Wolfson that he's concerned that the firing was retribution for his support of Secretary of State Chuck Gray's position on the issue of ballot drop boxes.
Sheridan County actually got rid of its ballot drop box before this year's election, but Temple said he and the county clerk disagreed about him expressing support for Gray's directive, saying that county clerks should not use them in the election.
Temple lived in a number of different states before moving to Wyoming in 2019. He said he believes Wyoming has the most secure elections in the nation. I'll be back with more news right after this.
Are you fabulous at 55? Are you ready to use your valuable time and talent to give back? Join Serve Wyoming through the AmeriCorps Seniors Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, or RSVP, and make a positive impact on your community. With a lifetime of skills and experiences, you're exactly what your community needs. Whether you're itching to lend a hand or your organization could use some extra support, we've got you covered. Call Sarah Roberts at Serve Wyoming at 307-234-3428 or RSVP at servewyoming.org.
Wyoming's congressional delegation and 10 more members of Congress sent a letter Monday to the commissioner of the Mountain West Conference urging her to keep males out of women's sports. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the letter follows a 2-month controversy in which 5 Mountain West Conference women's volleyball teams have forfeited games against San Jose State University, which has a transgender player in its roster.
Wyoming's all-Republican delegation to Congress joined with 10 other lawmakers in signing a letter to the Mountain West commissioner saying you need to get males out of women's school sports. They basically said this is not fair, this is not safe.
The National Association of Intercollegiate Athletes voted unanimously in April to allow only females to compete in women's sports. In a letter earlier this year, nearly 24 U.S. senators urged the NCAA's president and that organization to adopt that guidance. And a Saratoga man accused of leading deputies on for littering after his tailgate flew off his truck during the pursuit, among other charges, including meth possession. Aiden Swanson received a 7-foot-long list of citations, according to Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland.
There's a chase down at least 2 country roads, through some private businesses, through a ranch, across Bureau of Land Management land, into a public forest.
Swanson faces 12 criminal charges in this case. He's set for a November 20th preliminary hearing in Rollins Circuit Court. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. I'm Wendy Corr for Cowboy State Daily. Want to stay in touch with what's happening around Wyoming? I'm Wendy Corr, host of the Cowboy State Daily video newscast. From Mountain View to Upton, from Jackson to Cheyenne, our reporters are out there finding and telling the stories that matter. Every day, I talk to the talented journalists who are covering the topics, issues, and people that are important to Wyomingites. And in our daily newscast, I bring you their stories. Tune in to Cowboy State Daily video news every morning, only on cowboystatedaily.com.
Now, back to the show.
Yeah, let's get back to the show. Back in Studio 809 on this Tuesday, Cowboy State Daily Show with Jake. And we welcome in Mark Hines, who's got a couple of good stories, 3 good stories down at UW. They're thinking about letting you carry your Smith & Wesson, your old hog-legged, your running iron. What? The big guy.
I don't think they're talking about letting people open carry their hog legs so supposedly in the Old West it would be concealed carry with a permit over age 21 only, so
right,
not exactly passing Glocks out in the dorms, but
no, but
it's nonetheless a controversial topic.
Yeah I mean, your story summed it up great in the 2 quotes at this meeting, which was yesterday.
It was yesterday around noon.
They had this town hall deal, and the 2 sides are kind of summed up perfectly. The editor-in-chief of the college paper, UW Branding Iron, Ven Meester, said, "Who is this for? If the majority of the students don't want it, why are we? What is this for? Why are we doing this?" Mm-hmm. And then UW alumnus Sandy Reese said, "Hey, we're just following the Constitution, following your constitutional rights. If it makes you feel squishy, you're going to follow law here. So where are we going to end up? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, it plays." It plays into the larger topic of, I think the whole concealed carry in general, or gun-free zones in general, are going to. It's those age-old arguments. I mean, do you give institutions or places or do you say that the Second Amendment is universal and it applies regardless? I mean, even back in the Old West in the frontier days, a lot of times if you came into town, you had to turn your weapons in with the marshal, because they didn't want, they figured, drunken cowboys and dance hall girls and firearms were in a good mix. So, so back in the day, the marshals had the authority to do that. And then later on, people decided, well, that's not constitutional. And so things changed a little bit, and now they might change again. So it's going to be interesting to see where all this goes.
Well, without getting Leo into the room, that's kind of how we got here. Is Governor Gordon kind of passed the buck? He vetoed a bill that would have had more, or would just opened up would have gotten rid of gun-free zones, would have opened up where you can carry. And the governor said, this should be decisions made by the actual individual places. Go ask UW what they want to do. Let them decide. So that's why we're here. It's not necessarily that the students are all running around saying we should be able to have guns at math class. I mean, this is why we're here. And another interesting point was, again, from a student on campus saying he can envision a scenario where, heaven forbid, the 21-year-old RA is the only one allowed to have a firearm if this passes, and everybody else in the dorm is under 21. And what if this person goes on some kind of shooting spree? Just not have firearms at campus, or do we, what are we doing? Don't want it to be political. I hope when they make the decision, they think about what's best for the school. Like, do we want concealed carry or no?
And that's up to the trustees. I think they're going to be under a lot of pressure from both sides. Legislature, again, they've said they're going to take another run at just getting rid of gun-free zones altogether. So, we'll see all these arguments brought up again in the legislature. Other people have pointed out that the under 21 law isn't fair, because some people have made the argument that if an 18-year-old is old enough to be drafted and go to war, they should be old enough to carry a concealed firearm when they're back home. So again, that's another argument from one of the other sides, and again, I anticipate we're going to see all this come up again. So
I don't understand the nature of conceal. I would think the concealed carry should be more difficult to pass rather than open carry. There's reasons for that. I'm not sure I understand all the nuts and bolts and different arguments both ways. All right.
Most of the people I know who do carry prefer to carry them concealed, and that's just purely anecdotal, going off of people that I've spoken with. They just say it's a better deal.
Yeah, it's less likely to invite something when people. All right, good story. The other story you had in there, you stole from me. Maybe you don't look at. I can see from your face.
What did I steal from you, Jake?
You don't think you stole it from me. I talked about this with Cowboy Kevin in one of our segments about. We were talking about weird stuff we've seen. When we're out a horse all those hours out in the backcountry, and we, have you seen Wolverine? We talk about that Wolverine that ran across the road. Have you seen this and that? And we had both seen the cooperation and partnership of a coyote and a badger working together. Here's your story like 2 days later. It's pretty interesting. I love this.
That's funny. That's cool. I mean, it makes, if you think about it, it makes sense.
That
they've been able to tap into each other's talents and work together.
Yeah,
but I still think it's cool.
It is amazing. Wildlife stuff is always amazing. But wildlife biologist Franz Kalmanson of Jackson, he has forgotten more about coyotes than we'll ever know. He's really knowledgeable. He's seen it more than once about the coyote working in cooperation with the badger in order to obtain food, rodents. The badger's good at digging, but the badger's not necessarily quick enough to, when they're digging, something could pop out the hole and the badger misses the whole thing. And the coyote probably said, "Hey, you idiot, I could help here."
Then the coyote gets a free lunch. So no, they're both. We have our big premier, rock star animals, our moose, grizzly bears, but it's cool to appreciate some of the smaller critters that don't get as much love.
Yeah.
The coyotes and, that photographer I talked with, Isabella, she's kind of a big fan of coyotes, and she brought us the story of Limpy the coyote that limps along the road and looks pathetic, hoping that tourists will give him snacks.
Yeah.
And I thought that was hysterical.
Well,
now it's strictly against the rules to feed wildlife in the parks, as it should be. We're not encouraging people to do that, but we're just pointing out that the coyotes kind of figured out this game that he plays.
Yeah, coyotes are smart. They're sly, and Limpy aside, I And I admire and cherish the coyote for its role in the ecosystem. I guess maybe I'll have to turn in my Wyoming card for that matter, because the coyote and the magpie are two particularly hated species by most Wyoming rednecks. But I don't mind the coyote. The coyote does its thing. It's smart. It's crafty.
Yeah, but it's people have problems with them when they get into their lambs or their chickens or their, you name it.
Yeah.
So I definitely understand why some people aren't really fond, at least not about having them on their property, because they can do some damage to agriculture. They really can. So.
You know who's got a really rough pronghorn? I mean, mule deer as well, but the pronghorn, oh, man, your story about that early winter storm, that early season storm that was in eastern Colorado. The pronghorn, like all ungulates, they just can't get to the forage when you got deep snow, crusted snow, and then they get to wandering around, and they're on a highway late at night, and you got truckers, and oh, man.
Oh, yeah, like that. The lady with Colorado Parks and Wildlife told me that 53 in one incident where, I mean, you hear about tons, but like one truck impact apparently took out 53. But yeah, they seek out their resistance that happens to be a highway at night, and along comes a truck driver, and before he knows it, he's in the middle of them, and it's too late, and it's terrible.
50 antelope
150 altogether
from from that early season storm. What are you working on now? Anything cool?
I'm looking into. I know up in Montana, we've one of my favorite subjects is those prairie grizzlies up in Montana. And they figured out to haze them with drones. When they get too close to somebody's grain silos or lambs or whatever that people don't want a grizzly bear close to, they haze them away with drones. And so to me, the $1 million question is, grizzlies aren't dumb. And you think after about the fifth time that happened, that thing's not going to hurt me.
Yeah.
Because I've heard that, the folks down in Colorado say the same thing with the wolves, those, the flaggery and the flashing lights and that. It works for a while until the wolves figure out it's not going to hurt them, and then it doesn't work anymore. So to me, that's the question. Do grizzlies stay afraid of drones, or do they get acclimated to them over time, or how does that work? So I'm sure they have answers for it. I'm wondering what they are. Yeah.
I've seen similar with the cracker shot when they come and they fire, just blank rounds. Yeah, the wildlife gets desensitized to stuff that it figures out isn't going to hurt it. But, it's somewhere to go with the drone thing. Okay.
Yeah. No, that sounds fun.
Cool deal. Mark, thanks so much for popping on with us.
Oh, thank you, Jake.
Really appreciate it. Mark Hines, our out wildlife kind of guy, and he's got those cool stories you got to read in the Cowboy State Daily. Winter storm drives 150 antelope to their death. That was a few days ago. But that storm, that eastern Colorado bad storm, they got a little piece of Wyoming in it, and it was tough on the pronghorn. Coyotes and badgers, they've come to an agreement on how to best hunt rodents together. The way to get that chiseler is to use the badger's digging ability and the coyote's quickness and craftiness. And despite both those animals being noted for being a little cantankerous at times, I mean, you don't want to tangle with a badger. They do cooperate when it comes to filling their bellies. And the other story Mark had was a recap of yesterday's town hall meeting where University of Wyoming has just begun the process of figuring out whether to allow carry firearms on campus. Why would that be needed? Why might that not be wanted? And people had their say yesterday. The decision will be made by a panel of 5, including the university president. And we'll see how that plays out. So Mark Hines, some great stories. Thanks for the Western Ag Network Rodeo Roadshow with Will Rasmussen.
Hi, and welcome to the Rodeo Roadshow. I'm Will Rasmussen on the Western Ag Network. Glad to have you along. We are counting down to Vegas. We are narrowing in on the time that we get to go down there, but we are also counting down here on the Roadshow the top 15 in each event. We've done 15, 14, and 13. Today, we're going to talk about the number 12s going into the NFR. That's coming up next.
KC, Wyoming is the place to be November 21st for Largen & Sons Desert Mart Prime Fuel Sale. 90 coming to and 23 fall yearling bulls sell with over 40 direct sons of Desert Prime, a true cattleman's herd sire. Bred for dependability, explosive athleticism, and incredible outcross potential. This set of bulls will bring power-stacked, proven genetic potential to your herd. Lunch at noon, sale at 1 at the ranch in KC with online bidding through the livestock link. More at largenandsons.com.
At Ag Risk Advisors, this isn't our first rodeo. We are one of the most experienced in pasture rangeland forage. Honesty, commitment, trust. Many companies use these words. At Ag Risk Advisors, we earn them.
The deadline to enroll in pasture rangeland forage insurance is December 1st. Visit prfadvisors.com to enroll.
Let's talk about the number 12s going into the National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas. We are narrowing down, aren't we? Just around the corner, the NFR. In the bareback riding, Cole Reiner from KC, Wyoming. Going in number 12, back to the NFR for the 5th straight year. In the steer wrestling, Tyler Pearson from Mississippi, now living in Oklahoma, a former world champion steer wrestler. Going in number 12 in the team roping department, going to his first NFR, Kyle Dennison of Louisiana, going to his first Healer Buddy, Texas. In the saddle bronc riding, another first-timer from Powell, Wyoming, Brody Wells. What a year he had. I'm proud of him, and I'm a fan of his. Brody Wells, Powell, Wyoming, number 12 in the world in the saddle bronc riding. Hunter Heron, I believe this is his 13th trip to the NFR, Apache, Oklahoma, tie-down roper. There's young Haley Williams in the breakaway roping out of Texas, the daughter of the great Speed Williams, the 8-time world champion. Barrel racer Andrea Busby from Brock, Texas, going in the number 12 spot in the barrel race. And Jordan Wasey Spears of Redding, California, headed to his 5th NFR in the bull riding. On the Rodeo Roadshow, I'm Will Rasmussen on the Western Ag Network.
Six-gun shooting, yodeling cowhound.
Yeah, a little bit of Wiley Gustafson to get this cowboy, Kevin Meyer, bringing horse sense to the world. Kevin, what's going on in Douglas? You guys getting some weather, huh? Maybe?
Yeah, we had about 2 inches of snow last night.
Well, that'll work. Did you see the sunrise from Douglas? I wondered if you knew where that was.
No, I didn't see that one yet. I'll have to go look it up when we get done here.
Yeah, you got to get on that. That was, I can tell you where. Let's see. It's looking at Laramie Peak from Easterbrook Road out of Douglas.
Yeah, Esterbrook Road.
Esterbrook Road, sorry. Yep. Kind of looks like.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good of Laramie Peak from Esterbrook Road.
Yeah. Well, it looks nice, and a big thanks to Stacy Hessler, who sent that sunrise photo of the day. It's Douglas, Wyoming. And now we just give away your secret, where your, witness protection program, where you're located, but that's okay, right?
Well, that's all right. They figure out a maze of dirt roads to find the place.
Yeah, it's true. What are they going to find when they get there? Yeah, what's have you done already this morning? I'm interested to know. You probably get up as early as I do, and you got to do some chores before you join us. What happened this morning? What's your typical morning?
Well, this morning I got up and I looked out the window and saw the moonlight shining off the fresh fallen snow, and I said some bad words.
Yeah.
And then I went and I fed everything and made sure all the waters were working and cleaned all the horse pens. And then as soon as you and I get off of here, I'll start.
The wife and I were watching an episode of Yellowstone. We've talked about it a couple of times on how authentic it is. And once in a while she'll say, is that what really happens in the bunkhouse? Or is this really... And I remember one of them was showing the guys in the bunkhouse, and they were having breakfast early in the morning. And then the boss hand, the ranch hand foreman said, all right, everybody out, it's time to chore, time to work on time to go feed the horses. And I thought, man, you never your stock. You always take care of the stock first before you, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. And it's always kind of funny. And I've been on several outfits like feedlots, especially. And I've had plenty of friends of mine that went out on the wagon out in Nevada and some of them down in Texas, that you have to get up really early to go make sure that your horses are fed and you saddle them. Then you go back into the tent or into the cook shack and you drink coffee for an hour and a half or 2 hours waiting for it to get light enough to go do something. And we always sat around and thought, God, there has to be a better way of doing this. We could get another hour and a half of sleep, but we just haven't figured that out yet, I guess.
I'm with you. Yep. Sounds so familiar. So I had a couple of topics I want to hit with you. I didn't ambush you. You saw them ahead of time, so you've been prepped. But one topic interested me because I always knew Texas, it's a gigantic state. And when you look at a map of counties in Texas, it's divided into 254 counties, like enormous amount of. No state has more counties. It's crazy. And so why so many counties? I had always heard it was how far you could travel border to border of the county in one day on a horse. So some of the more parched western counties were smaller because, the horse could only get so far on that water and feed. But it turns out it may have more to do with getting to the courthouse. But what do you know? Have you ever cowboyed down in Texas? What do you know of, other than Texas being really big, what do you know of all the counties down there?
Well, my first inclination is to think that Texans are so hard to get along with, they can't even get along with each other.
I wouldn't have thought of that, but that's a good place to go. Yeah. So they need to, here's the tiny county where all of us agree on the same thing and everybody else. Yeah.
Well, and I think that is probably the truth of it is back where on a horse or a buggy, and Texas, a lot of Texas is dry as a bone.
Yeah.
And so, they have placed all their little towns where there was any sort and there wasn't much water in between them. I can tell you now, driving across Texas, frustrating because about every 40 miles, the way they made a lot of those towns is the courthouse was in the dead center of town. and have around it. And so you'll be booking down the highway trying to get somewhere. And every 35 or 40 miles, you got to slow down and drive around a courthouse.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that about too. And the thing is, you got to woe way down because Texas is one of those states, thank goodness, like Montana, where you can drive pretty, especially in West Texas. I mean, triple digits is nothing in West Texas. You can really go hammer down. But yeah, you keep hitting a little town where you got to woe it. Supposedly, there's so many counties in Texas because it was a strong belief way back when that people should be able to do their business at the courthouse if they had to without taking the whole day. They should be able to get to the courthouse, do their business, and get back to their spread, to their ranch. So that's why there's 254 counties in Texas. Although I like your theory that Texans are just hard to get along with. So they got to create divisions.
Well, and if you look at Texas, it's about 4 thrown together. So I imagine there was a lot of, well, quote unquote, tribalism at the time is this faction over here wanted things a certain way and their neighbors just down the road wanted something a little different. So they just said, you know what, we'll make our own county.
That could be. And yeah, we all know Texas, weather-wise can experience incredible differences. What's going on in the Panhandle could be a wicked winter storm. What's going on in San Antonio could be 95 and sweating. There's a lot of differences in Texas. I saw one map of Texas dividing the areas on where the best tacos were. And the best tacos were obviously more as you get to the southern border with Mexico. That would say, that was in red, like tacos great. And then in the Panhandle, it said, don't even think about it. They don't know a taco. Like, no, taco up there. Yeah, it was pretty funny. All right, so
well, I remember one time I went down there. It was one of the first times I'd gone down to Texas, and I saw a sign on the road, and I was kind of excited to eat some barbecue down there. But I saw a sign on the road that I hadn't really thought of, and it said, all you can eat catfish, $3.99. And I thought, by golly, I've never had a catfish, so I think I'll stop in there. Well, it turns out I can't eat very many catfish.
Not to get your money's worth.
I tell you what, I think they made money on me.
Yeah. All you can eat catfish.
It was good. It was all you could drink Lone Star beer too.
That's pretty good. My claim to fame in Texas is I drank them in Lukenbach, Texas. They were out of Shiner. I had so many beers at Lukenbach, watching this great country act. I forget who it was. And I went up for yet another Shiner, and he said, we're out of Shiner in Texas. That's impossible. It's like being out of Budweiser in Missouri. I mean, no.
Yeah.
Nah. Okay, let's go from Texas to rodeo. My interest in this story that we didn't have time to talk to Jackie about is about this kid, Rody Farrell, and his middle name is Owens. So if you take his middle initial, he's Rodeo Farrell. What a great name! Could he possibly be destined for any other occupation other than working in the rodeo? Rodeo Farrell is a Thermopolis cowboy who decided he was, it was probably going to be a career in rodeo, because it's what his dad did. His dad, I think, went to the NFR and Cheyenne Frontier. He rode all the great rodeos. So you knew Rodeo Farrell was headed for a rodeo career. His dad was hoping that he would be a bull rider. And the day he said, I want to ride bareback, his parents said, that's too dangerous. Our viewers and listeners, why getting on a bull is preferable to mom and dad, where riding bear is going to beat him up.
Well, and the best way that I can explain this is there's probably quite a bit more risk of catastrophic injury with the bull riding, but if control and everything goes right, it's really not that difficult on your body. But especially now in the current way those guys are riding the bareback horses, laying back and spurring, I mean, you're just taking a beating the entire time. You're really flopping around. You see most of them guys now wear those neck braces.
Yeah.
Because you're basically for 8 seconds giving yourself repeated whiplash.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of elbow injuries in the bareback riding because it's a struggle in that event. And I'm by no means an expert. And anybody who's listening to this that knows me knows that I know just enough to be dangerous about this subject as well. But the friends of mine that rode barebacks and rode at a very high level, they said that was the biggest injury they would have is if they couldn't keep their elbow bent, their elbow that was in the rigging, and it got out straight, it was really easy to hyperextend that thing and tear tendons and ligaments. And they said that was the hardest thing on them, where in the bull riding, you're up over your rope and you have a little bit more control over your arm.
Rodeo people, there are differences in riding rough stock. The bull riding considered the most dangerous sport. Bareback considered the toughest on your body. You're more likely to be suffering from injury. It is from the nature of the riding. Bull riding, as Kevin said, you're up on the animal, you're up on your rope, and you're more pitched forward. You want to be out over the shoulders of that animal to take away his power, but the danger there is the back of the bull's head and the front of your head sometimes could meet in a bad way. And then even saddle bronc riding doesn't require you to be sitting back as much. That's typical when you see a bronc getting all bronky on the ranch and breaking loose and bucking. That's typical of what you're seeing with a saddle bronc rider. But bareback is unique. That's no saddle, just rigging. And how do you stay on a horse with no saddle? For the most part, these guys have chosen to kind of lay back on the horse. And you watch that horse get to bucking. And what does it happen when you're trying to lay back on his back? And, the whipping, the pounding you take. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, Kevin.
And that's the thing is most of the bad things that happen with bull riding is when the ride is over.
Yeah.
Whereas with the bareback riding, I think it's more like the old saying, a death by 1,000 cuts, because you're just taking a beating, a small beating the entire ride instead of chancing one big beating when you get off.
Yeah. At the 10-second mark is when you're likely to be hurt the most in bull riding. At all 8 seconds of your ride in bareback is not too great for you. But congrats to, guys like Cole Reiner, Rhodey Wells, others that we hear. Will Rasmussen counting down the top 15 bareback riders going to Vegas here in a month. How they do it and stay healthy, I don't know. And how Rodeo Farrell is going to do in his career, we'll have to find out. He is just getting going. But that Thermop Cowboy looks like he could be somebody. Read that story from Jackie Dorothy. We'll talk to Jackie Thursday on how she got a hold of this Rodeo Cowboy who, despite his parents shaking their head, he wants to be a bareback rider. Okay.
I tell you what, my favorite part of that story is the side-by-side picture of his dad holding him at Cheyenne Frontier Days when, he looked like he may have been 16, 17 months old, just a little guy. And they reenacted that photo at Frontier Days when Rhodey's riding there as a 19-year-old. That shows a good sense of humor.
I'm showing that now for our viewers on the podcast. That shows. I mean, that's typical of rodeo rough stock guy. You got to have a sense of humor in the rodeo game. That is a cool photo. Good point. Cowboy Kevin Meyer out of Douglas. Let's talk about a few other things. Let's talk about being of a whole bunch of horsepower or dog power. We had a cool story the other day about this outfit here in Jackson, in my neck of the woods, Call of the Wild. They run dog sled tours, so folks get a chance to feel what it's like to be a musher, feel that horsepower, that dog power. Frank Teasley, I can almost swing a lasso and rope Frank Teasley from where I am. He's just right down the road at Granite Hot Springs. He runs a whole bunch of dogs and does dog sledding tours for tourists. And then, it's very similar to the art of team stirring, of driving horses, whether it's a 2-up, a 4-up, a 6, stagecoach. So first off, I want you to talk about what your experience with either. Have you driven a team of horses, and what does that feel like? Have you mushed or have any interest in mushing dogs, and what that might be like?
Well, I've got quite a bit of experience driving teams. When I was a kid, the neighbor fed with teams, and so I fed a lot of cows, pitched a lot of hay off of a hay rack behind some horses. And of course, in the dude business, we'd always have a team around, and we'd take people out on little wagon rides. But those were all pretty tame types of events, driving a bit different, although I can remember one time when I was working up at Coulter Bay, I had a team run off with me when I had, 12 or 15 tourists in the back. Come to find out that we'd gotten that team because that team kept running away with a stagecoach in Yellowstone.
Okay.
And the guy who leased them horses out, instead of taking them home and doing a little training on them, he just pawned them off on us. But
yeah,
on the positive side, nobody got hurt, and I guarantee you that is a story that will be told for years around wherever they're from.
Yeah, I mean, the way they tell it today is we didn't even have to pay extra, and we got to do this exciting. Meanwhile, the Cowboys like, thank God nobody got hurt.
Oh yeah, that'll get your heart pumping. As far as the mushing. Being a snowmobile guide up there around in Togedy, we saw a lot of dog mushers and a lot of people going on those tours. And then they have that dog race that comes through there. I can't remember what they called that. I don't know if they're still doing it or not, but there used to be a sled dog race that came right down the mountain range there. The funniest story, we had an area at Brooks Lake Lodge where they would all park their dog teams, and then they'd go in and have lunch in Brooks Lake Lodge, and they're just parked next to each other. And at least once a week, two of them dog teams would get in a fight.
Oh yeah.
And them mushers, they would be out there just up to their ropes, and they're just trying to pull them across, pull them apart and whatnot. But I think both of those things are a really good thing for anybody to experience if you get a chance to go on a dog sled. I never went on one, but I saw so many of them. I thought it was pretty cool because you could go out there through the wilderness in the snow, and it's quiet and it's nice.
Yeah.
I always thought that'd be a pretty cool way to get around before the invention of a snowmobile.
Yeah. To just slide over the snow behind a whole bunch of dogs. And you're right. By nature, sled dogs they got an attitude, and they don't like other dogs, whether it's another sled dog team or whether it's your dogs. I remember I snow machined my dogs into Granite Hot Springs, about 10 miles. They ran half of it, and they got a ride on the machine for half of it. And when we got there, there was a bunch of sled dog teams parked while everybody enjoyed the hot springs, and those dogs wanted nothing more than to tear mine up. They got attitude, that's for sure.
And they're in really good shape.
Yeah, they're used to running. They don't get cold. They're well fed. Yeah, they would make short work. Let's what else do we got to talk about today? Oh yeah, for some weird reason, I thought we would throw in. We were talking about the stop sign on Togedy and when we thought it would get buried with snow. And I'm running my own poll on who we think will pass away first, Dick Van Dyke or Clint Eastwood. Both of those famed actors are getting up there in age. And I can't believe every time I see Clint Eastwood in the news, I think he continues to direct movies and work, and Dick Van Dyke sure looks good for his age. Before long, who goes first, Clint Eastwood or Dick Van Dyke?
Man, that's a tough one, and considering how well I did on the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, I think whichever one I pick, you can probably go the opposite. But this is what I'll say about both them old timers: neither one of them have quit working, quit moving, you know, and I
Yeah.
think that's a real key to longevity is they might do it at a little slower pace, but I saw an interview with Dick Van Dyke not long ago. And he said that he still dances. He says, sometimes I got to dance while I'm sitting in a chair. But he said that's the key to it is to keep moving. And
Yeah.
obviously, Clint Eastwood, he's still, like you said, producing movies and directing movies. And he even acted in one a couple of years ago. But I guess if I had to put a bet on it, I would think that Dick Van Dyke is probably going to take his final bow first.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go the other one then. Just knowing you're trying. Let's do the stop sign, too. I asked Don Day if you're familiar with that stop. You know Togety Pass. You've been over that pass. When they get snow, tons of snow, and there's a stop sign up there that YDOT has a camera on, so we're able to document whether that snow gets all the way up to the sign and all the way over the sign. So what's your bet on the day that snow completely covers that forsaken stop sign in Togety Pass, or if it does at all?
Well, I guess the first thing I'd have to ask is how much snow is up on Togety right now?
Enough. I mean, they probably got 6-8 inches now. You can see the photo. I'll show you.
Okay. Well, then I guess I'm probably going to say it'll be January 7th.
Okay. Jan 7th. Don and I are going to wait till March. We think some of the heavier snows are going to be those spring snows. Is that what you get in Douglas? The spring, is that one, if you're going to get a bad, heavy, like here's tons of snow. I don't mean the blowing 2 inches blowing around. I mean the kind where this snow just starts piling up. Is that kind of a spring thing?
Yep. March and April is when we get those. You know, for generally speaking, January and February, we get really, really cold, but we don't get a lot of snow in that time. But we'll get those storms in March and April where it'll dump 3 foot. And so that always makes life really, really fun because it had just gotten warm enough to make you think that spring might be around the corner. And, you know, it's always amazing how cold 38 degrees is in November and how warm 38 degrees is in March.
Yeah, good point. Definitely. I mean, 38 right now today feels super cold. But, yeah, in a couple of months, it'll be T-shirt weather. We'll be used to it.
For sure. But, yeah, that's when we get ours. And I think all the eastern side of the state, that's our best moisture, and that's when the reservoirs and the dirt tanks fill up, and then we get the big melt off that gives us our irrigating water.
We're talking to Kevin Meyer, Douglas, Wyoming Cowboy. Can you see my
hey, I like that. There you go.
Represent Douglas Bearcats. Yeah. I just discovered that in my hay jacket. And I got a jacket for every ranching chore. And I got one specifically for hay. And the more I'm around hay, the more I just go into sneezing fits anymore. But yeah, I was playing in the hay in my jacket, and I'm like, wait, what's this? Oh, hey, that's where that's been, the Douglas Bearcat thing. Yeah. All right. What else is going on? Is that it?
You brought up the Bearcats. That was, I saw some pretty interesting scores that came out of the state high school championships, and that Cody Star Valley game looked like it was a lot tighter than maybe we thought it was going to be.
It was fun for a while. I was watching that game, that first half. I mean, Cody didn't let them run away. That's typically the last time those two teams met was an anomaly. They just threw a ton of points up. Cody jumped all over Star Valley in Afton. They were up like 21-0 before you even caught the game. You're like, wow. Weird thing. Usually in the playoffs, it's much closer to the vest and defenses shine, and Star Valley does what they do, and they just wrap you up like a boa constrictor, and they just keep squeezing, keep pressing that big offensive and defensive line. They just keep leaning on you. You can hang for a quarter, 2 quarters, maybe even 3, but they just keep coming. The Braves, wow, 3 in a row.
Yeah, and Sheridan just keeps on rolling.
Woo! I forgot to follow up with that, but I want to get him on because he deserves it. What they're doing in Sheridan with that football program is beyond impressive. And his record-setting winning streak in Sheridan, the Bronx are just on a roll, 21-0 in that one to win another state championship. Yawn. Sheridan wins another game. Man, oh man.
And I believe that means that group of seniors never lost a game.
Yeah, 4 years. Yeah, imagine if you were playing on the varsity team or if you've been in the program freshman to senior, 4 years. Yeah. You don't know what it's like to lose. Boy, those lucky kids.
No, that's a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. You got that going for you. Yeah, it was fun. Football in the books, and it's on to basketball. Does your kid play basketball?
No. He dabbles in wrestling.
Okay. Yeah, that's good for your core. That's good for your football game.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is he likes the physicality of it.
Yeah, it's physical. It's good for your core. So is bull riding. A lot of your rough stock riders are good in football because they have that core center. Like you just can't tackle those dudes. All right. We'll have to keep an eye on the Douglas wrestling scene.
Yeah, and Wyoming's a wrestling state. That they get pretty rabid about it, starting at a very young age.
Yeah, we got a couple of good wrestlers on the team. The team's looking good. The makeup for what that football with the Pokes are doing on the football field. But yeah, we got a strong wrestling program. Let's go right to wrestling. Boy, the wrestling kids are good.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, well, thanks, buddy. Appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, you bet. We'll talk to you Thursday, my friend.
Thursday, Kevin Meyer, Douglas Cowboy, making cowboy horse sense out of the world. As always, going to talk to him at 8:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. 8:55 now, 5 in front of the hour on this Tuesday. Cowboy State Daily morning show with Jake. And I know we're having a little bit of, I can see by the analytics and by the statistics, we're having a little bit of a sketchy video, little jumpy. I don't know. Our newly ordained Jackie Dorothy will have to get working on that. We just made her queen of all IT, so maybe she could fix it. But yeah, I see we got disappointing video numbers. It's just one of those internet days, it's cold in Wyoming and the interwebs don't want to work or something. I'm not sure who we can blame it on. We'll come right back and do This Day in Wyoming History after a quick break.
Daily Morning Show with Jake.
And this is This Day in History of Wyoming. I love this story. This day in 1909, George Sabin was sentenced for second-degree murder for his part in the Spring Creek raid. What that raid was kind of the end of the Johnson County War, the end of the war on sheep. If those of you familiar with Wyoming history know that at one time the cowboy and the sheep herder were at odds, and there was tremendous violence between the two parties. George Sabin shot, well, he was sent to prison for it. Shot a sheep herder in the face, and I think he and some others also burned some sheep. I mean, they were they were bad dudes. They took it to the extreme. It was this day in 1909, Sabin was sentenced for second-degree murder. What makes his story even more interesting is not part of my normal Wyoming, this day in Wyoming history info gathering. I just happen to recognize this name. George Sabin was the coach, the manager of the penitentiary baseball team. I did a story on these guys. I'm going to share it with you right there. Sabin is this dude. You see my mouse. The guy kind of top row, third from the left. That's George Sabin. He was the coach of Rawlins Wyoming State Prison baseball team that played some significant ball games back in the day. This photo was taken in 1911, so it was 2 years after Sabin was sentenced, George Sabin. Here's Sabin. Here's the team, and Sabin's down in the bottom left. That's his mugshot. His sentencing photograph. Sabin was given a lot of leeway. I remember from doing this story, he was treated as a trustee in the prison really well, because back then they didn't consider shooting a sheep herder very much of a crime, I think. Sabin was coddled to the point that he was on walked off and escaped from prison on December 25th, 1913. He was never recaptured. But on this day in history, George Sabin, interesting dude, was sentenced on this day, 1909. Also on this day, 1868, the Bear City riot occurred, which parties supporting lynched murder suspect, those supporting the lynching rioted. It was the town marshal bravely stood between two sides, those who wanted to do a lynching and those who wanted to protect the potential lynchers. There was serious destruction in the Bear River City riot. 16 people died. The cavalry was called in from Fort Bridger to restore order. This day, 1868. This day in 1980, speaking of the Johnson County Wars, Heaven's Gate, a widely panned movie at the time, was released. It was very expensive Western. Anybody who's ever seen this movie, Heaven's Gate, 3.5 hours long. It was expensive to make, and critics hated it. Sold from theaters not long after it was released. But, through time, now today, some people are saying better things about it. But at the time, it was critics hated this movie. Heaven's Gate, which is a Western about a cinematic Hollywood version interpretation of the Johnson County War. Heaven's Gate premiered this day in 1980. And on this day in 2009, the Co-East Wing at Wyoming University was officially dedicated. All these things happen on this day in history. Time for news with Wendy Core.
It's time to take a look at what's happening around Wyoming for Tuesday, November 19th. I'm Wendy Core, bringing you headlines from the Cowboy State Daily Newsroom, brought to you by the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. From 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, Cowboy State Daily's Jake Nichols keeps up with the news, weather, and sports in your part of Wyoming. Just tune into cowboystatedaily.com and join the conversation. Wyoming's 2 abortion bans are unconstitutional and will be blocked from being enforced. That's what a Jackson-based judge ruled on Monday. Teton County District Court Judge Melissa Owens concluded a year-and-a-half lawsuit Monday with that summary judgment order, according to Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland.
Judge Melissa Owens ruled Monday that abortion is healthcare, that the state's laws and stated purposes of these bans don't overcome an individual's right to that healthcare. Lastly, she said that she's blocking the bans from going into effect altogether. So they've been temporarily blocked during this litigation. Pause these, decide if they're constitutional. This is just an outright block. These are not constitutional. You cannot enforce them.
Wyoming lawmakers have a few different options going forward. The state can appeal Owens' ruling to the Wyoming Supreme Court. The legislature can try to pass a different ban that shows a compelling government interest, or the Wyoming legislature and the voters can pass a new constitutional amendment. Opinions were split over whether to allow concealed firearms on the University of Wyoming campus during a town hall meeting on campus Monday. Outdoors reporter Mark Hines attended the town hall where panelists discussed a draft proposal to loosen UW's firearms policy. He reported that most who spoke out seemed to be against the idea.
There's a proposal that is going before the UW trustees later this week. The Cliff Notes are it would be only for people holding concealed carry permits, and they would have to be age 21 and up. So no open carry, no long guns, nothing like that. Most of the people who attended this meeting do not want to see concealed carry guns on UW campus. They cited concern about accidental shootings, suicides, just the overall danger of the thing.
If approved by the UW Board of Trustees, the proposal would allow concealed carry permit holders to carry firearms in most UW facilities. It's set to be considered by trustees during their next meeting, scheduled for later this week. Tempers are not cooling in Laramie County between some local Republicans and their county clerk. The Wyoming Republican Party censured Laramie County Clerk Deborah Lee on Saturday for the second time this year over the way she conducted voting machine testing in this year's elections. 6 reporter Leo Wolfson.
This stems from frustration that the state party has over election machine tests that Lee conducted for the primary and general elections. These tests, the party alleges, did not align with state law and were missing critical pieces of information in the tests that were performed. Tim Stubson, a Casper attorney who's representing Lee in her official capacity in this lawsuit, said the party is looking for controversy where none exists and that she did nothing to break the law.
The resolution passed by the GOP on Saturday asks for Lee's resignation by December 1st. If she does not resign, the party plans to petition Governor Mark Gordon to remove her. The Wyoming Department of Transportation and contractor Ames Construction have been working around the clock to rebuild the mountain beneath Teton Pass. Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi reports that crews will continue working 24-hour shifts until winter decides they're done for the season.
They've analyzed what happened with the failure back in June and then applied that knowledge to the permanent solution for Teton Pass. So the new Teton Pass is going to be the old Teton Pass. It's going to be the same road, same curvature, same footprint, but they've drilled steel pillars into the bedrock, and they're supporting that with a thick hill that's more structurally sound and reinforced. And they've also installed a drainage system, because the reason why the highway failed back in June was it was saturated with water very quickly, and that reduced all of its strength, or eliminated all of its strength.
The permanent solution for Wyoming Highway 22 will be finished by the end of July 2025, over a year after the catastrophic collapse of the highway. And now let's take a look at today's weather with Cowboy State Daily meteorologist Don Day.
Well, bundle up, everybody. It is going to be a cold, windy Tuesday across the Cowboy State and really the whole region. Dakota will bring gusty northwest winds into the state and some cold Canadian air. Now, this is going to result in a little bit of snow for northern and northeastern Wyoming, especially early in the day. Snow showers over Wyoming's mountains. The snow is not going to be heavy, but enough, especially in the north, to make roads and highways and mountain passes a bit slick. Most of those snow showers will happen early in the day. The rest of it, just bundle up. We're going to be 20s and 30s and windy, cold wind chills. It'll be a cold night tonight. Now, tomorrow the weather gets a little bit better, still a little chilly, still a little bit breezy, but the best Friday, less windy, sunny, dry, and a little bit warmer before the next frontal system approaches the state by late Friday and into the weekend.
You can get Don's full forecast on the Cowboy State Daily website. I'll be back in just 15 seconds with more news.
Open enrollment is here. Discover a range of low-cost plans from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming. Shop now to find the best option for you. Online, in town, in touch. We're right around the corner. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming. What's your plan?
Wyoming's congressional delegation and 10 more members of Congress sent a letter Monday to the commissioner of the Mountain West Conference urging her to keep males out of women's sports. Cowboy State Daily's Claire McFarland reports that the letter follows a 2-month controversy in which 5 Mountain West Conference women's volleyball teams have forfeited games against San Jose State University, which has a transgender player on its roster.
Wyoming's all-Republican delegation to Congress joined with 10 other lawmakers in signing a letter to the Mountain West Commissioner saying you need to get males out of women's school sports. They basically said this is not fair, this is not safe.
The National Association of Intercollegiate Athletes voted unanimously in April to allow only females to compete in women's sports. In a letter earlier this year, nearly 24 U.S. senators urged the NCAA's president and that organization to adopt that guidance. Well, in all states, milk must still be pasteurized to sell commercially in a store. In Wyoming, you can only buy raw milk directly from producers or through their agents. Raw milk is still illegal in many states, although Cowboy State Daily's Jackie Dorothy reports that this may change under the incoming presidential administration.
So personally, if I were to drink raw milk, I would want to know where it's from and know that I trust giving it to me. And that's my responsibility as a consumer. And that's how the laws stand right now, is that it's consumer right from the farmer themselves. And so the question gets to be is if this goes on the federal level, where will be that safety factor and how much do you have to regulate?
With President-elect Donald Trump's nomination of Robert F. Kennedy as head of the Department of Health and Human Services, raw milk may soon become legal to sell nationwide. One of Kennedy's agenda items is to make America healthy again, is to allow for the sale of the controversial agricultural product. Sheridan County Elections Office last Tuesday expecting a relatively normal day. It had been exactly 1 week since the completion of this year's elections, an event Temple saw as very successful in his county. But Sheridan County Clerk Ida Shunk Thompson fired him first thing that day without giving any explanation why. Temple told politics reporter Leah Wolfson that he's concerned that the firing was retribution for his support of Secretary of State Chuck Gray's position on the issue of ballot drop boxes.
Ballot drop boxes have been a controversial topic around America and in Wyoming in the last few years. Sheridan County actually got rid of its ballot drop box before this year's election, but Temple said he and the county clerk disagreed about him expressing support for Gray's directive, saying that county clerks should not use them in the election.
Temple lived in a number of different states before moving to Wyoming in 2019. He said he believes Wyoming has the most secure elections in the nation. And when 2 of Wyoming's most cantankerous species, coyotes and badgers, set aside their differences and team up to go after prairie dogs and ground squirrels, the rodents have nowhere to hide. Outdoors reporter Mark Hines spoke to wildlife who all say the unlikely pairing isn't uncommon.
The badger will go in the hole and start digging, and the coyote will kind of bounce around the exits, and whoever gets the rodent first gets lunch, and whoever misses it, I guess, has to try again. But this biologist said, regardless of which one gets it first, the other one doesn't get upset and try to fight him for it. So who knew?
Between a badger's relentless digging prowess and a coyote's speed and agility, near certainty that the burrowing varmints are going to end up being somebody's lunch. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the daily newsletter button on cowboystatedaily.com. And you can watch this newscast every day by clicking subscribe on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to drop in on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake Nichols, Monday through Friday from 6 to 10 a.m. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Wendy Core for Cowboy State Daily.
Yeah, don't forget in here and be a part of the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake, 9:14 this Tuesday. Renee, don't forget to get in the Zoom room. We're looking for Renee Jean. Last call for Renee. Get in the Zoom room. Renee's got some great stories we got to talk about. We've got a lot of stories we've got to get to that I'm behind on. We also are going to join, due to operator error, operator being me, we also missed our chance to talk to Jessica Lippincott, who is the subject of an Andrew Rossi story that's just fascinating. You're going to love it. We'll get Jessica in here in a moment, too. In fact, once we confirm that Renee is AWOL, maybe we'll go right to Jessica. We don't know where Renee is. But stories that we do want to get to, two of them from Leo Wolfson, I think are of particular interest. They both involve county clerks. And maybe not the sexiest morning show topic, but we'll dress it up. We'll put lipstick on this pig best we can. County clerk, your seat. County clerks are important, especially during election time. It's an elected office, and state are in the news. One, in fact, let's make that three. There's one who kind of made a ballot mistake in Weston County, and Secretary of State Chuck Gray's not happy with her. We'll let her rest because it was a human error. It was just an oversight, nothing got hurt in that election. So we'll call that one good. That was one county clerk in the news who probably didn't want to be in the news. There's two more in the news. One has been under fire for a while now. It's the Laramie, who for a second time has been asked for her resignation. And if she doesn't, the Wyoming Republican Party is going to go straight to the governor and demand he remove her. Deborah Lee under fire. As Leo Wolfson writes, tempers are not cooling in Laramie County between local Republicans and their county clerk, Deborah Lee. She runs a messy election. The state and Laramie County Republican parties upset with the way Lee tested the voting machines for this year's primary going back to August, and upset over the general information about these tests afterward. The GOP on a witch hunt for Deborah Lee, Laramie County clerk. And meanwhile, a lawyer, she's lawyered up. She's got Tim Stubbson, Casper lawyer, that's representing her. And here's more on the story from our own Leo Wolfson on this deal. Oh, yeah, I had it right. Stand by. Here's Leo.
Tempers are not cooling in Laramie County between some local Republicans and their county clerk. The Wyoming Republican Party censured Laramie County Clerk Deborah Lee on Saturday for the second time this year over the way she conducted voting machine testing in this year's elections. That's according to politics reporter Leo Wolfson.
This stems from frustration that the state party has over election machine tests that Lee conducted for the primary and general elections. These tests, the party alleges, did not align with state law and were missing critical pieces of information in the tests that were performed. Tim Stubbson, a Casper attorney who's representing Lee in her official capacity in this lawsuit, said the party is looking for controversy where none exists and that she did nothing to break the law.
The resolution passed by the GOP on Saturday asks for Lee's resignation by December 1st. If she does not resign, the party plans to petition Governor Mark Gordon to remove her.
Okay, and that's one of our county clerks in the news, and we'll go to the other one in the news, and she is in there not because they want her fired. She's in the news because she fired a subordinate. Sheridan County Elections Supervisor is stunned. James Temple went to work last Tuesday like he's done every week. It's been exactly a week since the elections. Temple thought everything ran pretty good. He had no indication that that day on the job would be any different. Sheridan County Clerk Etta Thompson, hope I'm saying her name right, Etta Thompson, ended up firing Temple the morning as soon as he got into work. Temple said that Shunk told him, "It's not working out. We're going to have to let you go." Temple said, "I had no clue this was coming." And he is not sure what the issue is. Well, I'm kind of sure what the issue is. In my opinion, Temple was against ballot boxes. So is Secretary of State Chuck Gray. Doesn't believe these ballot boxes are safe and secure. Meanwhile, for the most part, county clerks across the state see no problem with the ballot boxes, where you can just sort of like a mailbox, drop off your vote. It probably is a lot more convenient for these county clerks. And that's probably what the rift was. That's probably why the firing happened. We'll find out more. Leo Wolfson has the story. But meanwhile, let's get into the Zoom room. We're going to be joined by Jessica Lippincott. And let's see. Is that you? Do I have you in the room? I probably have a cowboy up there, and I'm going to remove that because, well, maybe you're a cowboy. Should I leave the cowboy there? Maybe. Sure. Jess Lippincott. So for folks who have not seen this story, you got to get up to speed. Andrew Rossi has the story about Jess Lippincott. You're up in Thermopolis, yes? No?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And Jess did what a lot of people are doing now. You grew up as an only child. You had a father who kind of left the scene in a bad way. You had a stepfather who took over, but you never knew your biological father. Your mom wasn't really forthright with that info. She was kind of evasive on giving you that info. And like a lot of people, you always wonder, like, who is my real dad? And like a lot of people, you did the ancestry thing, the 23andMe, and holy cow. Take us through it in the Reader's Digest condensed version. But for those of us who haven't read it yet, the Andrew Rossi story, wow, what an eye-opener, what a shocker when you got the results. What happened? How did it start?
So I didn't know who really my biological father was, just because he left the scene when I was about 2. And I had questions after my mom passed away, kind of like medical history and things like that. So I took a 23andMe test in 2017. And when I first got my results in the email, I went through all the medical stuff first because that's what I was mostly interested in. And then I clicked on DNA relatives and it showed a 50% match with somebody as my father. And then I think at that time there was 6 or 7 half siblings that popped up. And so I was kind of confused and I had a bunch of questions. And then I remembered my mom had told me right before she passed away that she had used a sperm donor at a fertility clinic. And so then I realized that she was telling the truth. So yeah. And since then we have 50, I have 50 half siblings that have for sure matched on a genealogy like website.
Yeah.
So.
And we're looking at some of the photos now. I've popped them up for our viewers, and a lot of these young ladies look a lot like you. It must have been so weird to be like looking in a mirror, kind of, what you've learned. One thing when you reached out, and a lot of people, that's their motivation to find out more about their ancestry is health-related things. Like, what do I have in store? Was my biological father, was he susceptible to, high blood pressure? Who did you want to know stuff like that, medical things. But when you found out, and how did you get a contact? Because the sperm donor banks, those places, they guard those databases. Found a way to contact the dad, your real dad, and communication. What happened? What was that like?
So on the 23andMe website, you can send a message. And so I had sent him a message just kind of saying, I just got my results in and it's showing you're matching as my father, ? And so he wrote me back within a couple hours and said yes, that he was a sperm donor. So and that just kind of blew my mind at the moment.
And so what does it mean to you? I can now, especially now you've lost your mom, that to know there is a dad and you know who he is and you know how you came to be a little bit more. And now you've got all these sisters and brothers, I would imagine. Like, does it change your life? You wake up, is it any different? What's changed?
Yeah, it did change my life. Since I was an only child, my mom, when she passed away, my stepdad had already passed away as well. And so I didn't have really any family per se. I had some cousins and stuff like that, but I felt very alone at the time before I even took the test. And so now I feel like my heart is full, and I have established relationships with a lot of my siblings, and it's incredible. And I see where I get a lot of my traits from, because we all kind of have the same similarities. So yeah, it's been an incredible, amazing thing.
Like, you hear about twins and how they do, they think alike and they do so many things alike. But even a half sibling, you see like, oh man, I do that same thing. Who is there any like certain people you're really bonded with, or is there any siblings that are close to you maybe that you could carry on a relationship with, or like what's the count now and you didn't have any before, now what?
Yeah, I have a couple sisters that I'm really close with that we talk almost daily, or at least text. I do have a brother down in Colorado that we talk to, that I talk to quite a bit, as far as the brother side. And I'm kind of goofy, and so a lot of us sisters are too, and I feel like I've connected with some of my sisters that have that same personality that I do. So yeah.
Well,
it's hard to have a super close relationship with.
Yeah. It makes for a huge Thanksgiving Day table. Somebody's got to be at the kids' table for sure. Jessica, I'm so happy, so grateful that you participated in this story and shared your story. Everybody's got to read it. Cowboy State Daily, Andrew Rossi, the whole story. Get up to date. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing it with us this morning, because this story, a lot of people are going through very similar things. And I know it. I've seen it in my own close friends and family. So it's pretty neat that one great thing. I'm afraid to do the ancestry thing. I don't really see now. It's fascinating, and it's pretty cool to get some answers to some deep questions. It was life-changing for you. I appreciate you coming on, Jess.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me.
Have a great day and say hi to the family.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
All right. Jessica Lippincott joined us. That's pretty cool to have her come on and do that. You got to read that story from Andrew Rossi. We'll talk to Andrew tomorrow. and maybe pull a few things out of there. But you can't do better than going right to the subject. We can get Claire McFarland in here. We had Claire trying to join us because she's got the story of stories, the big breaking news story that you got to be a part of. So let me reach out to Claire while I do a quick Don Day weather forecast. We'll be right back with Claire.
Well, bundle up, everybody. It is going to be a cold, windy Tuesday across the Cowboy State and really the whole region. A storm forming in North Dakota will bring gusty northwest winds into the state and some cold Canadian air. Now, this is going to result in a little bit of snow for northern and northeastern Wyoming, especially early in the day. Snow showers over Wyoming's mountains. The snow is not going to be heavy, but enough, especially in the north, to make roads and highways and mountain passes a bit slick. Most of those snow showers will happen early in the day. The rest of the state, just bundle up. We're going to be 20s and 30s and windy, cold wind chills. It'll be a cold night tonight. Now, tomorrow the weather gets a little bit better, still a little chilly, still a little bit breezy, but the best 2 days of the week will be Thursday and Friday. Less windy, sunny, dry, and a little bit warmer before the next frontal system approaches the state by late Friday and into the weekend.
Back to the studio. Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jay continues.
Don Day with a forecast that includes cold. Yeah, it is chilly. Into the Zoom room comes Claire McFarland. Claire, are you, is it cold in your neck of the woods? Where are you?
Yeah, but I built a fire.
Yeah, all right. You're a can-do kind of person like that. You're all Wyoming. Gets cold, I build a fire.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Yeah, what a story. The scoop of the day. For sure, Claire McFarland broke the story that abortion remains legal in Wyoming. It's been legal, although it was challenged. And Claire found out that, by the way, I know Judge Owens. She's fantastic, super smart lady. So if she says it, it's got to be true, although this thing is probably not going to end here. What happened? Take us through it.
She issued an order Monday, summary judgment, basically saying, one side has a strong enough argument here, we don't have to go to trial. And the state of Wyoming, which was defending the abortion bans, and the coalition of plaintiffs, which were attacking them, both filed motions for summary judgment. So both sides said, we have a strong enough case, we don't even need to go to trial. For the case of the plaintiffs, she said that's actually true. So there were lots of arguments in play. I mean, there were religious rights arguments, and there were just constitutional and one thing. I don't have to look at all the other constitutional challenges. So she focused on the health care amendments. Every person in Wyoming has a right to make his or her own health care decisions, according to an amendment the voters passed in 2012 in the Obama era. Excuse me, I ate too many almonds. And so she said, look, so she cited a dictionary definition and another portion of Wyoming law, and she concluded that abortion is healthcare. And then she concluded that it's a fundamental right under that amendment. And then the next step is, well, it's going to shock all the libertarians in the room, but a state still can make a law that abridges a fundamental right, like freedom of speech. They can make a law that abridges that if it passes a court test called strict scrutiny. It's the highest, the most rigorous court test there is. The law has to achieve a compelling government interest in the narrowest means possible. So, for example, they always say you can't shout fire in a crowded theater. That would be, the government in banning that would have a compelling interest and would have to ban that speech in the narrowest way possible. Is an example. So she said, okay, well then does this law survive strict scrutiny? And she went through what the state said were its compelling interests. And she rejected each of those arguments. And she said that the law does not survive that standard and therefore cannot abridge a fundamental right.
Now it was the state law, statute, the state constitution that offers people the right to access health care uniformly. Mm-hmm. And that's what she based this question is considered healthcare, yeah, like a slam dunk. Everything else just falls to the wayside, you would think. Is this the crux of the argument? Is this major? Because I'm trying to figure out like what holds up in the Supreme Court if the appeal comes. And you talked about that bullet point list of other things, and kind of Judge Owen said, well, if it's healthcare, it's healthcare, and it ends there for me. But, you know, we can go down the list. What is the list? What's beyond that? If you call abortion healthcare in Wyoming, then it's legal and women have to have access to it.
So where the state had at least a strong enough argument that Owen spent some time on this particular argument where the Deputy Attorney General, Jay Dirty, had argued that the word own is imperative. So you have a right to make your own healthcare decisions if you're a competent adult, right? And so he said, you know, adjective here, it's not your own if there's life in there. And so that was where he said, this is pivotal. The very language of the Constitution separates that out, according to Dirty's argument. And so she just, you know, she kind of rejected that argument, basically saying, well, the amendment doesn't go into detail about your healthcare decisions can't affect others. So this is where I think maybe the state has a foot in the door on appeal. It could call that ill-reasoned. It could attack another part of her decision. The state needs to find potential challenge those to the high court.
Yeah. So what it means for people right now is Wyoming, it's been legal to get an abortion. And I think one of the bans, and you spelled it out well, because I did want to know this, whenever we're talking about abortion or not, it's in what case, at what trimester, what point of a pregnancy, and in what cases would a ban not be enforced. And that, you know, it's rape, it's the health of the woman, you know, you had that all spelled out. So right now, while Judge Owens was looking at it for a year and a half, she put an injunction, a temporary stop on any kind of ban moving. So it's been legal to get an abortion in Wyoming ever since Roe v. Wade.
Yeah. We had a trigger ban. So boom, abortion, because they overturned Roe v. Wade up at the U.S. Supreme Court. And then she was like, nope. So she paused that right away. And then, so what happened in 2022 and 2023 is lawmakers were looking at her pause, the way she reasoned, we're going to pause this while litigation is going on. And they were like, well, maybe we can she can't pause under these declarations, under her reasoning. So they made like way more like law with tons of carve-outs and tons of exceptions and all of this specific language, thinking, oh, she heard the reasoning she used last time. So March of 2023, here come new laws, 2 new bans, a chemical abortion ban and a criminal abortion ban. That I mean, from the looks of them, were meant to circumvent the reasoning she used to put the temporary block on in 2022. Didn't work. She blocked him anyway, basically saying, you know, this is looking like healthcare. And so so then what we have is at least 2 more complicated laws that she then had to deal with in a brand new lawsuit, a sequel to the first one. It's the saga here. But now the governor has just announced half hour ago that he plans to appeal, that the state plans to appeal. In fact, I got to go write that.
So that appeal then would move it to a higher court. What is the next higher court? That's the state Supreme Court.
The next higher court and the highest court in Wyoming is the Wyoming Supreme Court.
Okay.
And so this is a state's issue. Very, very, very unlikely that it would go to the national Supreme Court. So I mean, the buck stops here.
Yeah. Yeah, and it went. Greg was saying it went originally there, but the state Supreme Court said, "Hold on, you got to talk about this down in the minor leagues first."
She tried to kick it up there, like she certified questions. So I have doubts about things. I want a higher court to weigh in.
Yeah.
Is what that is. And the higher court was like, no, you. So the district court judge in this case, the trial court, even though we didn't go to trial, is the fact finder. So they're supposed to go through all the fine details and then issue and then the higher court can review that ruling. Oh, was this ruling correct? But the higher court typically is not the fact finder. They don't go through all the facts with a fine tooth comb as much as they look at how the judge handled those facts.
Yeah.
The Wyoming Supreme Court was like, you're the fact finder. You go through all the stuff, you make the decision, and then we'll judge your decision.
Well, I mean, knowing Judge Owens, the state Supreme Court's not going to find any fault with her. She's super smart, I think. But we'll see. This issue is never going away anytime soon nationally. Yeah, you got to go with a follow-up story. You don't have time to go down the bullet list of offenses of Aiden Swanson.
No, I gotta go.
We'll do it ourselves. Thank you. Yeah, that's Claire McFarland who broke that story yesterday. Huge story that abortion continue legal in the state of Wyoming. Judge Melissa Owens, District Court, Teton County made that decision and likely headed, as Claire said, Governor Gordon was just waiting to appeal on behalf of the state, and that's probably headed to the state Supreme Court to make the final decision there. The story I was alluding to about this this wild police chase, it makes me think of. Let me get the. This is a Saratoga man who led cops on a high speed chase. I mean, not, they weren't doing 120, but at one point, I think they were hitting 70 miles an hour. This guy got meth drug charges. This is Saratoga, Wyoming. Man accused of leading deputies on a truck chase last week was finally cited. Carbon County Sheriff Sergeant Christopher Fisher parked himself outside of Aiden Swanson's home at about 2:40 in the afternoon on November. He was waiting for Swanson to show up. Finally, Swanson did, and somehow there was a chase involved while traveling. And so in the end, they chased this guy for a while, and during the chase, stuff was flying out of the back of his truck, including the tailgate fell off. And when it did, the officers chasing him, the sheriff deputies, added that to the list of things that Aiden Swanson was doing wrong and that he would eventually be charged with, including, I guess, Aiden flew the finger out the window. Fisher wrote in his follow-up, Sergeant Christopher Fisher wrote, Aiden's vehicle struggled to get up the hill, and Aiden flipped me off with his middle finger while driving. And I'm sure that was added to the list of offenses. The list is lengthy. It includes, let me find the full list of offenses. It includes the original meth charges, drug charges, and then a whole bunch more as cops just threw the book at him. 12 criminal charges in this case that Aiden Swanson will be facing: felony meth possession, meth delivery, having a gun while being a felon, interference with police, violation of protection order, driving with a license suspended, reckless driving, failure to maintain liability coverage, no valid vehicle registration, eluding police, littering. That was the charge because of the tailgate falling off his truck. That's a $750 fine for littering, criminal trespass, and maybe a few more. But I thought, and I'm sure our editor, that the tailgate falling off and being charged with littering was the final straw. It just shows you at that point the tolerance law enforcement had for chasing down Aiden Swanson, allegedly. The headline reads, Saratoga man's tailgate falls off during chase, and he's therefore charged with littering. It reminds me of Smokey and the Bandit. If you've ever... Remember when Smokey and the Bandit, it's not Smokey and the Bandit 1, it was Smokey and the Bandit 2 or 3, when Jackie Gleason is with his dimwit son as his deputy. Jackie Gleason's the sheriff, and his dimwit son, Junior, was his sidekick dude, and they were chasing the bandit, and something falls off their vehicle, and Jackie Gleason yells at his son, "You better pick that up and put it in the car because that's evidence." I'm going to share it with you now so you know what the heck I'm talking about. Here's a little clip from that movie. Let me make sure I got this volume on. Here's that.
You did that on purpose! You go to wait, you agree! I got the evidence. Put the evidence in the car. Put the evidence in the car. I gotta barbecue your ass in molasses. Put the evidence in the car.
There's the evidence of the door that fell in the car. Put the evidence. And so I'm just imagining these Carbon County sheriff deputies chasing this dude, and the tailgate falls off, and the guy, driving the cop car chasing him turns to his sidekick Junior. Write that down. His tailgate just fell. Put the evidence. Just write that down that he's. There was quite a laundry list of items facing Aiden Swanson in the chase. Saratoga's Aiden Swanson. Claire McFarland had that story, including a whole bunch others concerning crime. We got to try to get to more of them as we move along on the show today. Should we take a break and get to them? Where am I with the show? 9:47. Boy, we're running out of time. Just take a quick break. I'll come back with what stories I think we can get to right after this. You're enjoying the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. Back. Back in studio 9:50, 10 in front of the hour, and a follow-up on a story that we had about a week or two ago. Claire McFarland had this story about an arrest, and now we find this court case has resolved. A jury finds Fremont County man guilty of killing his disabled landlord. This story pits Burdick Seminole as the shooter. First-degree murder, gunned down his landlord who is wheelchair-bound. Now, this happened in August of 2023. Court documents say the landlord accused Seminole of bringing young females to his home and getting them high. And at one point, the landlord had enough of it. And let me share this. This is the Cowboy State Daily story. Claire McFarland is the photograph of the accused and now the convicted Burdick Seminole. A jury found Seminole guilty killing his wheelchair-bound landlord. The landlord is Michael Standing Elk, I believe. Let me find his name. But Claire had this story a few weeks ago when we learned about this case, and now the case comes to resolution. So for Seminole, he is facing, I believe, life in prison. Yeah, sentencing set for February 6th, faces life in prison term. And it all came down between 42-year-old Michael Standing Elk, who was not doing a lot of standing. He was a wheelchair-bound guy, and things came to a head one night when Seminole apparently came into the room of Standing Elk, the bedroom, and those two had it out, and then Standing Elk was shot. More than one bullet hole was found in Standing Elk, and the jury wasted no time in finding guilty Burdick Nelson Seminole of first-degree murder, sentencing February 6th. Claire McFarland had that story that took place in the Fremont County, I believe, on the reservation. Another story from Dale Killingback, a little bit lighter-hearted. Casper man wins a $170,000 sweepstakes prize as the winner of a Maverick sweepstakes. Maverick, the convenience store, gas station. It was part of the Endless Expedition. And at first, it's funny that Mitchell says he's never been lucky over his 41 years of life. He can't remember winning anything. And here he is, the winner of this. And his first reaction when he found out he was even in the running or was thought it was a scam. Last month, telling him he was a finalist, Maverick 2024 Endless Expedition Annual Sweepstakes. It's a partnership between Maverick and Mountain Dew. At first, Mitchell thought the email was a scam, but he spoke with a company rep, understood he was randomly selected from contest entrants across the U.S. West, where Mavericks are located. He and three others would. It was Mike Mitchell who was chosen, as you see his photo in this story. And I guess he won $70,000. He wins cash. He wins a new truck, which he says comes in pretty handy. The truck's all decked out in Mountain Dew decaling, I believe. That's not the truck he won. I don't think it is. Maybe it is. I know that. Yeah, maybe he won. He did win the truck. Hey, Mike and Mary Mitchell checking out their new trailer for off-grid camping. That's their new truck. Yeah, it's all wrapped with Maverick and Mountain Dew kind of stuff, an Endless Expedition, but whatever. I'll take the truck. I'd take the money and the camper. That's great news. Great story from Dale Killingbeck. about Mike and Mary Mitchell winning the huge $170,000 sweepstakes from Maverick and Mountain Dew. Congrats, Mike, my new friend. These stories and a whole lot more as we tracked them down today. We got to a lot today. The story of the day, the lead story of the day, breaking news from Claire McFarland. Or any other news outlet, abortion remains legal in Wyoming as a district court judge blocked 2 abortion bans. That ruling came down yesterday afternoon, and Claire McFarland was right on it. Mark Hines had the story about UW, the University of Wyoming, considering whether concealed okay to carry on campus. There was a big meeting yesterday. Mark was there and heard both sides, including the majority of students who say, why do we need to carry concealed weapons? But the other side said, hey, your squishy feelings aside, let's follow statutes and laws. That was alumnus Sandy Reese who said that. If it passes, only people 21 and older would be allowed to carry concealed handguns, no open carry, no long guns like rifles and shotguns would be allowed. They're considering it at the University of Wyoming. Mark Hines had also the story about the cooperation between coyotes and badgers who have been seen together. Franz Commonsen, wildlife biologist in the Jackson Hole area, have seen it numerous times. I've seen it myself, about badgers and coyotes working in partnership and cooperation to get lunch. The badger digs, the coyotes quick, and the two make a great team to get those chiselers. Also, Claire McFarland had the story about a Wyoming delegation, including 10 Congress people, are urging the Mountain West Conference and director to ban males from competing in women's sports. Cynthia Lummis with a great quote. Senator Cynthia Lummis said, life isn't fair. And she put that out on Monday to X, formerly Twitter. As that whole continues to boil over. Wyoming Republicans want to censor Laramie County Clerk Deborah Lee. That's in the news again. Meanwhile, Sheridan County Clerk fired one of her employees last Tuesday out of the blue, and that could be over whether ballot boxes should be allowed to be unattended, somewhere where anybody could access them. But that's a weird issue about county clerks being in the news. WYDOT's busy at work rebuilding Teton Pass. It's going to be better than it ever was. Andrew Rossi has that story. Claire McFarland with the story of, we just mentioned the Saratoga man who led law enforcement on the high-speed truck chase, and his tailgate fell, so he was cited for littering. I love it. The super flag of the border war. They unveiled maybe the second biggest flag in the world of the United States. The biggest in the Guinness World Book of Records is a flag that measures 225 feet by 505 feet, displayed over Hoover Dam as part of the 1996 Olympic torch relay. That flag weighed more than 3,000 pounds, requires about 500 people transported to hold it out. Each star is 17 feet high. The stripes are 20 feet wide in the Guinness World Book of Records super flag. This super flag wasn't quite that big, but it was close. It was an entire football field. They unfurled it at the border war last Friday, the rivalry game between CSU and Wyoming, and it took 200 volunteers to spread that one out. Dale Killingbeck had that story. These stories and a whole bunch more are what we got to, and that will do it for today. As my phone is ringing, I must have to go. Cowboy State Daily Morning Show this morning. Thanks. Have a great Tuesday. We'll see you tomorrow First thing, 6 a.m. For now, good morning. Good morning. This is the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show with Jake. The new way Wyoming wakes up.
The views and opinions expressed on the Cowboy State Daily Morning Show are solely those of its host and do not necessarily